お前はどこまで見えている。俺の死に様か。
The Fourth Shinobi War is over, but how hard it cost the United Shinobi Alliance. Every village suffered huge losses. But probably the biggest losses fell on Uzumaki Naruto. After all, he lost not only close friends such as Sai, Ino, Shino, Captain Yamato, but also a loved one. No one knew, but Naruto was in love with Uchiha Sasuke. And the one who killed him was the blonde himself. Help in the war was only a cover, because the Uchiha decided to capture the tailed creatures and with their help destroy Konoha. He managed to subdue and sharpen the tailed creatures with the help of Chibaku Tensei and moved to the Valley of the End. However, his further plans were not destined to come true. Naruto interrupted him. Using the Hiraishin, he managed to catch up with the brunette because he knew exactly where he would move. What an irony, once upon a time in this place their path to becoming the strongest ninja began. Sasuke, please come to your senses, there is no need to destroy Konoha. This won't fix anything. Besides, Itachi wanted to protect the village, and you are trying to destroy what he sacrificed his life for. Naruto shouted, trying to reason with his lover, because he did not want to cause him any harm, and the thought that he had to fight with Sasuke, and perhaps even kill, tore his heart. You won't understand, Naruto, it is precisely because of Itachi and what he had to endure because of this damned village that I will destroy it. And without another word, he attacked Naruto. The battle was brutal, because Sasuke really wanted to kill Naruto, unlike the blonde, who just wanted to stop and reason with his old friend. They used all their strongest techniques, Naruto even had to use Sage Mode, and at some point Sasuke began to give in. At this moment, Naruto decided to use the Rasengan, and his opponent Chidori, but at the very last moment, Sasuke took out his katana Kusanagi and cut off Naruto's hand. Sasuke enjoyed inflicting injuries on the blonde, and when he cut off his hand, a satisfied grin was reflected on his face. He hated Naruto with all his heart, because, as he believed, everything came easy to him. The Uchiha hated Uzumaki for the strength that he gets from nowhere. And even now, when he received the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinnegan, Naruto is not inferior to him and is pushing him in places. And now, when Uzumaki will no longer be able to create techniques, the Uchiha will take pleasure in killing the blonde. Well, that's all, Naruto, Sasuke said with a grin, you can't make seals anymore. And this means that I won. And now I will kill you, and then I will destroy Konoha. And no one will stop me. And he laughed. The one who rarely even smiled is now just laughing. Some might think this is a joyful laugh, and they would be partly right. After all, the Uchiha was glad that he could finally kill the hated blonde. And at that moment something flashed across the Uchiha's face that Naruto realized he couldn't save Sasuke from this hatred. And then he decided to take the last step, which he did not want to take under any circumstances. Uzumaki sees Sasuke launching the Nagashi Chidori at the Kusanagi, and he himself takes out a special kunai, firing wind chakra at it. The Uchiha sees that Uzumaki is not going to give up, and he still has an ace up his sleeve. This makes the red-eyed man incredibly angry, but he is completely confident in his victory and does not notice how Naruto's eyes fill with tears. It's over, Naruto. Sasuke shouts and raises his hand to deliver the final fatal blow. Yes, it's over, Naruto whispers quietly and abruptly, without giving himself a chance to change his mind. He sends one of the balls at Sasuke with such force that it knocks his Kusanagi out of his hands. And he turns the second ball into a spear and pierces the Uchiha's body through. The last thing Sasuke heard was Naruto's words, "Farewell, Sasuke. Sleep well, my beloved," Uzumaki said sadly, no longer holding back his tears. When Kakashi and Sakura finally came running, the following picture appeared. A bloodied, almost dying Naruto was holding, the already cooling corpse of Sasuke in his arms. The last thing Uzumaki remembered was Sakura, who called Katsuyu and quickly began to pull him out of the other world. When the blue-eyed man woke up, he did not immediately realize where he was. White ceiling, white walls, single bed. Yeah, it's clear, he's in the hospital, and tired Sakura is sleeping on a chair next to him, with her head on the bed. How long did he sleep? Naruto smiled weakly and patted his girlfriend on the head. Haruno shifted unhappily in her sleep, in no hurry to wake up, but still opened her green eyes, not really understanding what woke her up. But when she came across cheerful blue eyes, she immediately rushed to the blonde with hugs and tears. "I'm sorry Sakura, I couldn't stop him," Naruto said quietly, calming the girl down. "No, it's not your fault, Naruto. This time, probably, no one could stop him. I understand that this was the only way." "Thank you, you protected the village," Sakura said sadly looking at the blonde's severed hand. She understood that it was possible that he would no longer be a shinobi. "I'm so glad you woke up," and she again rushed to hug Uzumaki. Tsunade found them in this position when she came to check the patient's condition. "I see you have already come to your senses, Naruto. I'm very happy. How do you feel?" "Thank you. Everything is fine," the blonde smiled weakly. Afterwards they talked a little more, and then Tsunade left, taking Sakura with her, to check on other patients. The next guest was Kakashi. Many more people came to see him, but the most unexpected guest was Orochimaru. He brought with him a bunch of instruments and began to conduct some tests, with the consent of the blonde himself. As this snake said, this is necessary for Naruto himself, but he didn't really explain anything. That filthy snake did what he wanted and went home with a satisfied smile, without saying anything, thought Naruto, lying in bed. Although he was not tormented by ignorance for long. Within a few days, this snake appeared again and said that he could make Naruto a new arm. But it will take at least 6 months to create it. After all, because of kurama, not every DNA will take root and therefore everything needs to be calculated. Naruto was glad, because this meant that he could continue to be a shinobi. This is how his days passed in the hospital: tests, rest, tests, and more tests. Until one day a slyly smiling Tsunade came to see him. "You know, Naruto, even though you can't do anything right now, that doesn't mean I'll let you idle around. Besides, you are the only genin we have left. Therefore, from today we will prepare you to become a jounin. And for this you need to study." And at these words of hers, several people entered the room, including Kakashi, who were carrying simply unimaginable stacks of papers. From all this amount that he has to learn, Uzumaki's eyes just popped out of his head. Besides, the future Hokage cannot remain a fool. "Hokage, yes," Naruto said sadly, looking at the faces on the mountain. "You know, Bachan, I wanted to become Hokage so that the residents would recognize me. But now everyone recognizes me anyway, even without a position. And I realized that I no longer strive to take this place, that I dream of protecting Konoha, and for this I want to become an ANBU and achieve the rank of captain. This is my new goal," the blonde said cheerfully, "but I agree to study, and Kurama insists. He says he's already fed up with the full Jinchuriki." With these words, the hellish training of the Uzumaki began, and in the literal sense. Tsunade, Kakashi, and Kurama took him seriously. He didn't even have a free minute to meet with friends. Also, because of the sage's power, Naruto asked Tsunade and Orochimaru to teach him Irinjutsu. He was trained in espionage, rhetoric, the art of combat, camouflage, medicine, and a bunch of other things that could be useful to him in ANBU. And to get everything done, he needed clones. And for this I had to learn how to make seals with one hand. So half a year flew by, during which Naruto mastered everything and even became a medic at Tsunade's level. The operation to reattach the arm took a long time, but was successful. And now our blonde is again a full-fledged shinobi. It's time to start serving in ANBU. But before that, he asked the new Hokage Kakashi for a leave of absence for 2 months. He wanted to get into the ruins of Uzushio and look for some information about his clan. By the way, I forgot to say that during his training, Uzumaki often began to help the Slug Princess with the work of the Hokage, because Shizune also died in the war. He handled paperwork and often delivered Tsunade home when she passed out at her desk. They became so close during their work that they became a real family. Tsunade resigned herself to being called Bachan, and began to call Naruto Meigo, grandson. Therefore, even when Kakashi became Hokage, Naruto continued to look after Tsunade, and over time they began to live together. But let's return to Uzushio. Here, in the ruins of the Yuzukage estate, he found a secret archive with a bunch of scrolls on fuin and techniques. And of course, Kurama forced him to learn them all, and he himself was not averse to learning something new. So 2 months flew by during the study. When they were returning home, Naruto felt some kind of familiar energy that simply attracted him to a small temple not far from the ruins. When he reached out to the temple, the invisible barrier was cut off with the power of the sage and opened a small passage that descended deep underground. At the end of the corridor was a spacious room with a bunch of S and S+ rank security seals, some of which Naruto didn't even know. Apparently, they were from the time of Kaguya, when the Uzumaki clan did not yet exist. In this room, there was only an altar with a single scroll. Walking closer and opening the scroll. What could this mean? I don't understand. The Uzumaki couldn't have built such a protected temple for the sake of an empty scroll? Or maybe the scroll was stolen a long time ago, and is it a fake? Don't be stupid, Uzumaki, the fox grumbled, crawling out of the seal and taking the form of a little fox. It's impossible to just get into this temple. There must be something else here. Try a drop of blood, maybe it will work on the Uzumaki gene in her. I'll try, Naruto said, cutting his finger. Nothing happened. Uzumaki suddenly fell to the floor, and Kurama ran around, not understanding what was happening. And at this time in his head, Naruto heard a voice. I greet you, the one in whom my blood flows. My name is Kagetsuchi, the demon who gave birth to the Uzumaki clan. Child, who is closest to me in strength, I give you my strength. That, Naruto. You've finally woken up. What happened? Kurama, Naruto sighed tiredly, please don't scream, your head is just pounding. I'll explain now. This scroll contained Kagetsuchi's will. Kagetsuchi? Fire demon? Yes, himself, and don't interrupt me. I'm sorry. So, as he said, the Uzumaki clan came from him, that's why we were called red-haired demons. And since my strength is closest to his, it's probably because of your chakra, he gave me many fire techniques and some special power. It is difficult to classify it as a Kekkei Genkai, but it does not apply to elemental techniques either. This power is based on sound and is tied to fuin. With the help of special songs, it allows you to find especially hidden seals of any complexity, as well as destroy them, even seals of class S++++. Anticipating your question, you heard right, I said songs. It's hard to explain, I'll show it to you someday, now let's go home. Several years have passed since the recent events, most of Naruto's friends have already started families, and our hero rose to the rank of ANBU captain, although he remained lonely. He has changed, he has become more silent, collected, calm, one might even say cold, but with his friends he is still just as cheerful and optimistic. Many thought it was because of working in ANBU, and it was time to grow up. But only one person knew why such changes happened to him. Flashback. Hey, Naruto, come here, we're talking, Tsunade shouted. Drinking sake in the living room. Yes, Bachan, did something happen? Naruto asked, entering the room with a smile. Not really. Listen, I don't want to push you, but you're already 20 and still alone. All your friends have already started families, some already have a child, and some have two. Don't you think it's time for you to think about this? Maybe I also want to babysit the kids. The smile immediately disappeared from the blonde's face, and he even turned slightly white. Uzumaki sat down heavily opposite Tsunade and quietly answered. I'm sorry, Bachan, but I won't be able to fulfill your dreams. What, are you really into boys? The former Hokage joked not entirely successfully, not noticing the blonde's condition. I can't love again. I just have nothing to love. My heart is broken into small pieces and cannot be put back together. At these words, Tsunade immediately pulled herself together and stared at Uzumaki with incomprehension. It is impossible to heal a heart if love died by your hand. Naruto stood up and, without saying another word, left. It took Tsunade very little time to realize who she was talking about. After thinking a little more, she stood up and went after the blonde. She found him in his room, looking out the window with empty eyes. She walked over and hugged him, holding him tightly to her. My stupid Mago, don't be sad, I'm sure that everything will get better soon and you will find happiness. Naruto smiled weakly and hugged her back as well. End flashback. In the Hokage's office. Called, Hokage-sama? Asked the ANBU in the fox mask. Yes, Naruto, you can take off your mask. I have a mission for you. This is a rank B mission. The customer, a certain Yusatsuki no Okuro, asks to be quietly escorted to the land of swamps. He must deliver a secret message there. But I don't like all this. Everything is fine, Kakashi-sensei, my squad will cope with any problems, Naruto said, smiling encouragingly. I hope so. You go out in 3 hours. Hi. In the Senju house. Bachan, I'm leaving on a mission, I'll be gone for about 2 weeks. Please be careful, I have a bad feeling, I won all the time today. Do not worry, everything will be alright. I will definitely be back. After all, I can't leave you alone. He gently kissed Senju on the top of his head and went to get ready. 3 hours later, he left on a mission from which he would never return. Wow, how my whole body hurts. I don't remember anything about what happened to me. And where am I anyway? So I need to pull myself together and open my eyes, but then I heard Kurama calling me. Naruto, come down to me, there is a conversation. And so I find myself in my subconscious, but I was suddenly overcome by such weakness that I almost fell into the water. It's good that the wall was nearby. So, leaning against the wall, I reached the room where the fox was sitting. But instead of this red rug I see a cage? How so? Why is she here, me? Does he know when he opened it? What is going on? Kurama, what's going on? Why are you in the cage again? And why do I feel like the Bijou were playing football and it was me instead of the ball? Now you will feel much worse, but I will try to ease your pain. I didn't have time to answer anything when such pain pierced my head that I couldn't stand it and screamed, and tears flowed from my eyes. Then I felt Kurama wrapping me with his tails, and the pain gradually subsided. And now I see the memories of some girl flashing through my head. Namake's Naruto. She is the daughter of Namake's Minato, the 4th Hokage, and Uzumaki Kushina, the bloody habanero, and has an older brother, Akira, who is 6 years older. She was a cheerful child and also mischievous. Well, just me in childhood. I dreamed of becoming a shinobi and being strong like my dad. But one incident changed everything. At the age of 6, she is kidnapped by some fanatical scientists in order to conduct an experiment on her to become a pseudo-Jinchuriki. The girl saw disgusting scenes, a sea of blood, butchered bodies, organs in test tubes. Lying tied on the table, the child prayed to be saved. And she was heard. But not by her allies. The laboratory was attacked by Nukmin, who did not share something with the scientists, and killed everyone right in front of the frightened child. The girl passed out from fear. She woke up in some dirty basement, tied up. The unfortunate child was rescued a week after the abduction. He was eaten alive. The parents were shocked when they saw their baby wounded, beaten, and looking at the world with empty eyes. There is no trace left of that cheerful little girl. Naruto said only a quiet but firm "I will not become a shinobi," and did not utter another word. From that moment on, family relationships began to crumble. Minato became cold towards Naruto, singled out only his son, and forgot about his daughter. Although Akira loved his Immortal, seeing his father's attitude, he also pulled away. Only Kushina tried to support her daughter, but Naruto herself did not let her in. She became withdrawn, wore only dark clothes that were several sizes too large to hide herself, tried not to interfere with her family, sat in her room all the time or went out for the whole day. She was despised in the village. Of course, she is a disgrace to the Hokage, weak and without chakra. In fact, she has a lot of chakra, but those scientists put some kind of seal on the chakra source and now it is impossible to use it. This went on for 2 years. The situation in the Namikaze family has not changed. Naruto is still silent, except that Minato has become even more distant from his daughter, although much more so. One morning Naruto decided to go down to the dining room for breakfast, but she didn't expect Minato to be sitting at the table. Usually at this time he is already in residence. "Honey, you're early today," Kushina said, turning to take steps. "Come sit down, now everything will be ready." Naruto didn't want to eat at the same table with her father and see a cold look or worse, if he said anything to her. She was very offended that after those words her father did not support her, but shouted and pulled away. She would like him, like his mother, to continue to support him, because she loves him very much. So she simply shook her head in refusal, put on her shoes and left the house. "Naruto, come back now. Don't you dare leave home without having breakfast," shouted an angry Kushina. "If he gets hungry, he'll come back," the blonde heard her father's calm voice. Naruto didn't hear any more. She went for a walk in the forest. Only there could she feel calm. Only in the forest did she speak again, although mostly she sang. She had a very beautiful voice, gentle and melodic. And now she was walking and humming a simple melody, and at the same time she kept thinking why Toussaint had cooled off towards her so much. He was so kind and sunny. He always played with her, taught her, and helped her in difficult situations. Was he really so upset by my words that I wouldn't become a shinobi? No, there must be something else, but what? At the age of 8, Naruto was very smart and quick-witted, and if she still decided to become a shinobi, she could easily enter the academy now and not wait a whole year. She was so lost in herself that she did not hear the strange rustling behind her. And when I realized, it was too late. She was stunned. When she woke up it was deep night. Naruto was lying under a tree, not far from the gang of mercenaries who dragged her here. Fortunately, she was not tied up, which gave her a chance to escape. The mercenaries did not pay any attention to her, apparently decided that she had not woken up yet, and discussed their affairs. Naruto decided to take advantage of this. She rose very quietly and, trying not to make noise, disappeared between the trees. She moved like an experienced shinobi, yet her father was at least able to teach her something, and when she was at a sufficient distance, she ran. But she did not run for long, soon she heard screams behind her. This meant one thing, she had been found. But Naruto wasn't going to give up that easily. She ran even faster, although she had no strength left. Hiding behind a large tree, Naruto stopped to catch her breath. How suddenly something rustled in the bushes, and a little red fox, a 9-tailed fox, jumped out at the girl. He was shabby and limped on his hind leg. Apparently, his relatives disliked him for his differences. Just like me, Naruto thought distantly. The little fox looked at the girl with his red eyes, turned around and ran into the depths of the forest. But before reaching the bushes, he stopped and turned towards Naruto. It's as if he's calling me to follow him. Although it's better that I follow him than get caught by these mercenaries, she thought, and ran after the little fox. They ran like this for a long time. It had already started to rain, and it was becoming more and more difficult to run. The beast could no longer run, it simply fell. Naruto took him in her arms and sat down to rest. But they were not allowed to rest for long. Within 5 minutes, they heard the sounds of battle. Naruto had no desire to find out who was fighting there. Therefore, overcoming terrible fatigue throughout her body, she got up and ran. So, without making out the road, she ran out to the cliff. Finally, I found you, little trash. Turning around sharply, Naruto saw one of the kidnappers. The girl was so scared that she staggered back. But she forgot that she was standing in front of a cliff. So, having lost her temper, Namake's Naruto died. Kurama, what was that? And who is this girl? You. Kurama, have you hit your head anywhere? How can I be an 8-year-old girl if I am a 25-year-old guy? Maybe the cage affects you like that and makes you dumb? Don't push yourself, stupid boy, the fox growled, but then looked at me sadly and asked, Naruto, what do you remember from recent events? I thought about it. But really, what did I do before I got here? And by the way, where does this come from? I can't remember anything specific. We died in that world and moved to this one. How come they died? Wait, exactly. An ambush mission, an old man Rakudo, who said something that he was very sorry that my life had turned out this way. And in order to find happiness and find true love, he will move me to a parallel world. And you, as a part of me and my best friend, will go with me. But, why exactly a girl? Couldn't the old man find a world where I'm a guy? Apparently Rakudo decided that as a girl you can become happier than when you were a guy. Seriously, I asked, arching an eyebrow. Apparently there was so much skepticism in my voice that Kurama did not dare to say anything else. We were silent for a bit. I cooled down. Oh, damn, now we need to get used to talking about ourselves in a woman's face, and I decided to summarize everything that we have in the end. Okay, what do we have? I ended up in the body of an 8-year-old girl who doesn't know how to do anything at all. No strength, no skills, and besides, the chakra is sealed. Although this is not a problem, I will be able to remove the seal. Judging by her memories, the girl is very resilient, considering how much she ran without training. So, what else? The girl is constantly silent, her father hates her, her mother is trying to establish contact. Although she has not been particularly successful in 2 years, her brother does not pay attention, and at first he also tried to establish contact. The villagers despise me. Well, I'm not used to this, I have no friends. Not much. Don't forget that you are also a Jinchuriki, but this is kept in the strictest confidence. Everyone thinks that I am sitting in Kushina. There was no attack during the birth. The seal was weakened by the second birth, and in order to save Kushina and prevent me from escaping, they decided to reseal. The smaller part was sealed back into Kushina to relieve the pressure from the seal and prevent her from dying, and the second part was sealed into you. And the Uchihas and Uzumakis are also alive here, but the red-haired ones stay in Uzushio and rarely come to visit their relatives. So, what are we going to do? Don't stand out or change your attitude towards me? I asked with a sly smile. Knowing you, Uzumaki, you won't be able to sit still, even though you become calmer. That means we'll spoil the brains of those around us, my personal schizophrenia answered with a grin. I love him, but I won't tell him about this. Although he already knows this and responds in kind. So first we need to work on the chakra, expand the chakra channels, and then physical training. Don't worry about the chakra button. Nupka, this flea-haired ball of fur, drawled contentedly. I like it, that's what I'll call you. So, all your power remains with you, it's just sealed now. All you have to do is remove the seals, and then Naruto's chakra and ours will begin to merge together. All you have to do is increase your physical fitness and relearn the techniques so that your body gets used to them. And since you already know them, the process will go faster. At least some good news. But still, how my body hurts, I whined, burying myself deeper into the fox's tails. Well, don't forget, you fell off a cliff, you fool. Be grateful that you are still alive. Thank you, I growled, offended by the fool. Listen, Ku, I just remembered. That little fox, I think he looks like you. So this is me. How is that? You are sealed and cannot be in the outside world. You're right, but this is a special case. As you know, we bijou are blobs of chakra that have taken the form of beasts. We are material, you can touch us, but we do not have a physical body. And this cute little furball made me like Yubi. I don't understand. Oh, I need to explain everything to you. Okay, listen. Jubi was a full-fledged being, he had both a body and chakra. He was like a summoned beast or Ninken. Rikudo sealed his body in a ghetto statue and created us from chakra. Therefore, we cannot have a physical body. But this little fox is an exception. Perhaps he was nearby when I was resealed, and some of my chakra fell on him, changing his body and filling it with chakra. But there is so little of it that it is difficult to detect. Because of this, even when sealed, I can safely move into it and walk free, and no one will understand that it is me. Everyone will think he is a Ninken. And yet, when the Uzumaki clan first appeared, they were famous not only for Fuin, but also for their Ninken foxes. We can revive the tradition, Kurama finished his story with a satisfied smile. I agree. Listen, Ku, when can I remove the seals? Not now for sure. You need to recover. In about a week. And now it's time for you to return, I feel someone's approach, I myself will move into my body. Okay, braggart, she said with a smile, leaving the subconscious. It was not on the first try that my eyes opened. When I finally managed to open them, I tried to look around, which was difficult for me. The body hurt much more than in the subconscious. But still I was able to look around. I was lying in the forest, at the foot of that same cliff, but where else could I be, in a pool of my own blood? It's amazing that I haven't died again from such blood loss. The downpour made my situation worse, as if the heavens were mourning the death of Naruto. And then I felt a man approaching. Strange, a very familiar chakra, but I just can't remember whose. I weakly turned my head in the direction where the chakra was felt. Soon, a Konoha Anbu landed on a tree not far from me. He looked at me with red eyes from under his raven mask. Sharingan. Having seen who was lying at the foot, the guy visibly shuddered and rushed towards me like a bullet. Naruto. Hang in there, Naruto. Akira, she needs to be moved to the hospital urgently. She won't last long. At that moment, another red-haired Anbu landed next to us. But I didn't pay any attention to him. Itachi, I whispered quietly and passed out. Lastly, I saw two shocked looks. I woke up in an unfamiliar room. It was not possible to examine the room right away. When I tried to open my eyes, they immediately hurt from the bright light. The second attempt was more successful. Blinking her eyes somehow, she began to look around the room with difficulty. Judging by the smell of medicine and the white walls, I'm in a hospital. I can't stand hospitals, we got them in the last world. By the way, my body still hurt. As if a toad boss had sat on me. This is understandable, bones do not grow together in one day. And judging by the sensations, I broke at least a couple of ribs and a leg. With such damage, a normal person would need a month to recover. But who said that I'm normal? Thanks to Kurama, I will recover in a week. And it also means that I will have to die here alone for a whole week. Before I had time to succumb to such gloomy thoughts, I felt a stirring under my side. Carefully lifting the edge of the blanket, I saw a sleeping fox. God, Kurama. Your cuteness can be used as a weapon of mass destruction. Whoever sees you so cute will immediately fall at your feet, or rather at your paws. Gently stroking the little fox between the ears, I covered him with the blanket again and began to think about what to do with myself. But before I had time to really think of anything, I heard hurried steps behind the door, and a second later, the door was opened with such force that I'm surprised it hasn't fallen off its hinges yet. A red-haired whirlwind burst into the room and began to strangle me in its arms. This whirlwind turned out to be Kushina. She cried on my shoulder, and I sat in shock. I just didn't know how to behave with her. Even though I knew that I had a family in this world. Naruto, honey, how are you? I heard my mother's voice. Mom, how unusual this word sounds to me. Naruto, what happened? How did you end up in that forest? Kushina kept asking me, knowing that I still wouldn't answer. Then a nurse entered the room. She apologized, quickly checked my condition, wrote something down in a notebook and bowed and left. After sitting in silence for a while, Kushina was about to say something, but she was interrupted by a quiet sneeze under the blanket. With great amazement, she stared at the moving blanket, but when she saw that, or rather, who had crawled out of there, she jumped off the bed with fear. She already wanted to rush to protect her daughter from this monster, because for all her cuteness, the little fox is very similar to the nine-tailed one, and Uzumaki has suffered enough from him, Kyubi. But she froze in place, staring at me in shock. What am I? I'm okay. Just with a gentle smile I stroked this ball of fur, which, stretching, as if nothing had happened, climbed onto my shoulder and fell asleep again. Here's a sleepyhead. Naruto, who is this? Kachan asked very quietly. He saved me, I answered just as quietly, which put the woman into even greater shock. True, he was not in shock for long, and immediately rushed to strangle me. I couldn't see her embrace as anything other than an attempt to kill me. Honey, you started talking again, the mother squeezed her arms more and more tightly. But my stomach saved me, telling me in time that I hadn't eaten for a long time. Oh, sorry, dear, I completely forgot, so I brought you some food. After releasing me, the woman began to take out containers with food, and I was able to breathe in the much-needed air. Looking at the amount of food that Kushina brought, my eyebrows slowly rose. Wow, that's not much, but you can eat this amount for 3 days, if not more. Did she completely clean out the refrigerator? My stomach didn't allow me to think any further, and it made itself felt again. Without hesitation, Kaa-chan handed me one of the containers and chopsticks. I didn't need to be persuaded twice, I opened the container and quickly swallowed all the contents. But I'm still hungry. Mom just laughed quietly and handed me another box. This time we ate with kurama. So we ate all the food in 2 mouths, only a little fruit remained. While eating, Kachan kept her eyes on Ku, and as soon as we finished eating, she took him in her arms and began to look at him closer. Then she let out some kind of delighted squeak and hugged the little fox with her. Naruto, I allow you to leave him, the mother once declared enthusiastically, continuing to squeeze the unfortunate creature. Naruto, save me, Kurama mentally begged, but I was in no hurry to fulfill his request. Well, when else will you see something like this, for the great and terrible Kyubi no Yoko to be terrorized with impunity? But the happiness was short-lived. Having slightly changed its size, the little fox was able to escape from the arms of an unexpected woman. In general, we talked a little more, although Kachan did most of the talking. I didn't say another word until Kushina noticed that it was getting dark. Sorry, honey, I have to go home. I need to prepare dinner and have time to go to the store. I shook my head and smiled weakly. I knew she cleaned out the refrigerator. Kachan gently hugged me and patted the little fox on the head and, saying goodbye, left. I lay there a little longer and fell asleep, because I was pretty tired during the day. Contrary to my fears, the week in the hospital passed quickly and joyfully. Every day, Ko came and brought a lot of food, which Ko mostly ate. She told many funny stories, and I tried to answer her more and more often, gradually leaving the image of a recluse. But probably the most fun thing was meeting my doctor. Flashback. The next morning I woke up very late at about 9, considering that I was used to getting up at 6 because of my service in ANBU. Kurama was not nearby. Apparently he woke up earlier and went for a walk. After lying down for a while, I decided to get up and go to the window. Before I had time to put my feet on the floor, the door opened and a young girl of about 25 came into the room. She had shoulder-length brown hair, large brown eyes, and purple markings on her cheeks. But most importantly, she had the Byakuga seal. As you can imagine, my attending physician is my father's former student and, apparently, Tsunade's student, Noera Rin. Naruto, you can't get up yet. Go back to bed, please. I frowned a little, but obeyed. That's a smart girl, the girl smiled at me. Now you and I will conduct a series of tests and see how your recovery is going. To begin with, what exactly we will do, I never found out. A dark-haired hurricane burst into the room and began circling Rin around the room. Rin, darling, I'm back. The girl laughed merrily, but I couldn't understand what was happening. Only after taking a closer look did I realize that. Uchiha Obito? I was clearly not ready for such a meeting. I sat and looked in shock at the developing scene in front of me. First, a living Rin, then a completely healthy Obito without scars and both eyes in place. Apparently in this world that incident did not happen, or, on the contrary, Kakashi died. I already thought that it was already difficult to surprise me. But how wrong I was. After delving into my memories, I found out that Noara is not Noara, but an Uchiha. Besides, the young family are my godparents, as well as Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. Horrible, as many as 5 godparents. And if I'm used to Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, then I don't know these two at all. And based on my memories, we saw each other 2 years ago. Even before the incident. And after that I didn't let her in. Obito still continued to tell something to Rin, who had apparently forgotten about me. But this idyll did not last long. Suddenly, Obito squealed and began to rush around the ward, and on the well, in the place, loving adventures, hung a fox cub. Apparently Kurama had already returned from a walk and wanted to sleep again when Obito burst in and started making noise. So Ku taught him a lesson. I could no longer contain myself and laughed quietly. From the melodic, but such unexpected laughter, the Uchiha couple froze in place. And they were already looking at me in shock. Kurama calmly unhooked himself and, showing with all his appearance that he was a king and we were all slaves, jumped onto the bed and settled on my shoulder. Without saying anything, my visitors went out into the corridor. End flashback. And finally they let me go home. I had already collected everything I had and began to wait for Kachan. She was a little late, but I wasn't worried. I had time to think. What awaits me at home? During my entire stay in the hospital, only my mother visited me. I know that Naruto has problems in his family, but I don't understand how someone can treat a member of their family with such disdain. Well, okay, I'll figure it out on the spot. Besides, Mom has already come and brought clothes. Looking at this semblance of normal clothing, I realized that I would soon have to raid the store. And now you have to put on what you have. I put on a long dark jacket with a hood and pants, which were most likely my brother's shorts, because they were just hanging on me like crazy. I didn't put on a hood, like the local Naruto did. Kurama climbed in there instead. What a scoundrel. Quickly putting on my sneakers, I left the room and walked up to Kushina, who was talking with Rin. Seeing my appearance, the girls shook their heads disapprovingly, but said nothing. We're used to it. After saying goodbye to Rin, we headed home. By the way, I quickly became close with Noara, although I still try not to talk much. And now I know who will go shopping with me. We walked through the main street of Konoha. All the way I looked at the village. Konoha was exactly the same as in my world, except for one detail. People with Konoha police badges could be seen everywhere. Uchiha. Kurama growled in displeasure and buried himself deeper into his hood. I slightly raised the corner of my lips at this. Kurama is Kurama. So, while thinking, I didn't notice how we approached the house. It was a large 2-story house. There is also a small garden in front of the house and a huge backyard, with a pond and an old sakura tree next to it. And there is even a training ground. In the house on the ground floor there was a living room, a kitchen with a dining room, a toilet, a bathroom and a couple of guest rooms. On the second floor, there is also a separate bathroom with a toilet, my and my brother's rooms, my parents' bedroom, a study and another guest room. There is also an armory, which is located in the basement. Well, it's quite a nice house. We're home. Kushina shouted and went to the kitchen to sort out the groceries that we managed to buy along the way. Minato came out of the living room at the voice. He kissed his wife and completely ignored his daughter. Although I expected something like this, it still hurt me terribly. Therefore, without saying a word, I rushed upstairs to my room, noticing out of the corner of my eye my father's expression, which said that I was a non-entity. Entering the room, I threw myself on the bed, barely holding back tears. "Don't cry, Button, we'll figure out what's going on here and make this idiot respect you." "Thank you, Ku, for being with me, I couldn't have done it alone." Hugging Kurama, who was almost as tall as me, I fell asleep. "Sleep, Naruto, we can overcome all difficulties together. And everything will be fine with us." In the morning, Kushina woke up early as usual and immediately went down to the kitchen. She needed time to prepare breakfast for her men, see them off to work, and then go wake Naruto up so she could eat too. The woman perfectly understood her daughter's reluctance to eat with her family when your father completely ignores you or, even worse, humiliates you, lowering your self-esteem even lower. Although there is much more, it is already below the plinth. Therefore, she did not resist her daughter's desire not to leave her room or go for a walk all day, just to avoid meeting her father. But what Kushina didn't understand was why Minato had so sharply lost interest in the daughter he loved most. When he found out that he was going to have a daughter, he acted like a happy idiot for a whole month. And when she was born and smiled at him for the first time, he simply melted and did not let her go for a minute. This idiot even dragged her to the residence and to meetings. No, can you imagine, you are having an important meeting, and the head of the village is playing with a child. Although the clan heads didn't particularly object. They also fell in love with this sunny child, whose smile makes it impossible not to smile back. Then Kushina had to give her husband a dressing down with the participation of a frying pan so that it finally dawned on him that the child should stay with his mother, and he himself went about his work. When Naruto was kidnapped, Minato alerted the entire village and led the search himself. They will also be joined by Fugaku Uchiha and Hayashi Hyuga with their men. But even so, it took them a whole week to find the girl. But could it be that her daughter's words that she would not become a shinobi could change Minato's opinion about her? No, of course he would be upset, but would support her in this decision. So there was something else. But here's what Kushina couldn't understand. "Good morning, Mom," Akira muttered sleepily as he entered the kitchen. Speaking of him, his attitude towards Naruto was much better. But also not rosy. If at the beginning he was still trying to somehow establish contact with her, then he left everything to chance, deciding that Naruto herself would make contact with him when she returned to normal. But this never happened. Therefore, sometimes he himself asked, although his mother, how she was feeling. That's how it is now. "Kachan, how is Naruto? Why don't you ask her yourself?" "I would like to, but she still ignores me and won't answer me," he complained somehow childishly. Kushina smiled mysteriously. "I wouldn't be so sure." "What do you mean?" Akira didn't understand, but then, remembering something, he whispered under his breath, "Didn't I really hear it then?" "What are you talking about?" Akira raised an eyebrow in surprise. He didn't think Kushina would hear him. But then he smiled and explained. "When we found Naruto near the cliff, I heard her call Itachi by name, but so quietly that I thought it was my imagination." "But has she really started talking again?" "Not really, but sometimes she answered me." Kushina smiled tenderly, finishing setting the table. At that moment, Minato came down to the kitchen. "Sit down to breakfast." Afterwards, having seen the men off to work, Kushina went upstairs to wake up her daughter. Imagine her surprise when, upon entering the room, she saw that Naruto was not only not sleeping, but had also made a real dump in the room. "In the morning I woke up early as always, the sun was just rising over the village." Yawning sweetly and stretching, she decided to look around. The room was large, decorated in beige and gold tones. A large wardrobe covering the entire wall, a chest of drawers, a couple of bedside tables, a dressing table and a large double bed by the window, on which I lay, carefully covered with a blanket. Apparently Kurama tried. How cute he is, but you can't tell, by his always sarcastic behavior. Looking around, I didn't find the little fox. So he's already gone for a walk. After lying around a little more, I got up and resolutely walked towards the mirror. It's funny to say, but during the entire week of my stay in the hospital, I never looked at my reflection like that. But it's okay, we'll fix it now. As I came closer, I jumped to the side in horror. I look like some kind of brownie, disheveled, in baggy clothes. Without thinking twice, I shook off all this horror, remaining in gray sports underwear, and returned to the mirror. From there, a pretty girl with long golden hair reaching to her lower back, large eyes the color of a clear sky, framed by long black eyelashes, looked at me. The stripes on my cheeks are so dear to me. And not very plump pink lips. My body has already begun to acquire feminine curves, my hips are more rounded and my breasts are already clearly visible. Of course, it's not the first size, but you can't call me flat either. And it's quite strange. Usually girls at this age are more angular. Maybe it's because of Kurama that my body began to develop faster. Without focusing on this, I opened the closet and was again horrified. How can you wear so much black? Absolutely all things were either black or dark gray. With a dissatisfied expression on his face, I began to sort out the closet, dividing things into two piles, those that I could still wear, and those that needed to be thrown away immediately. After working for 20 minutes, I sorted out half of the closet, but the first pile was not replenished with a single item, and I still remained in my underwear. Sighing heavily, I pulled out a more or less colored item from the second pile. It turned out to be a long swamp-colored sweater with a high collar. Armed with scissors and spending another half hour, I showed off in a pretty good dress. It was fitted, mid-thigh length and off the shoulders. Well, it turned out very well. Having tied a high ponytail, I continued to dismantle the closet. As a result, the entire floor is littered with unnecessary things, and for myself I left only leggings, a couple of short leggings, and several t-shirts and shorts for sleeping. Not too much. I'm definitely going shopping today. Having found where the trash bags are in the nightstands, began to put things away. Kachan caught me doing this. At first, she was surprised by such a mess, and then her gaze darted to me. She gasped in delight. "Honey, you look great today, but what are you doing?" "Cleaning." After a short silence, she asked. "Kachan, can we go shopping today?" And such a sad look at the closet. Quickly realizing what was happening, Kushina literally lit up with happiness. "Of course, honey, you go downstairs for breakfast, and I'll clean up here and call Makoto. Let's do some girly shopping today." Smiling at my mother, I put on my high shinobi boots and went down to the kitchen. Having quickly had breakfast, I washed the dishes and began to wait for my mother. She got it done pretty quickly, and after half an hour we went to the Uchiha quarter, where we met with Makoto and Rin. I didn't expect to see the latter, but I was glad to meet her. The Uchihas clearly tried to strangle me when they saw me in a new image. Strangely enough, Obito, who was our porter today, saved me. Snatching me from the hands of the happy women, he hugged me tightly and put me on his shoulder. I was wildly embarrassed by this position, but all my attempts to get down were ignored. In this situation I reached the shops. All the villagers turned at us in surprise. Of course, it's not often you see the Hokage's daughter, despised by everyone, riding in someone's arms. The first store was the lingerie department, where, of course, Obito was not allowed. Inspired women dragged me from one rack to another, choosing different styles for me. I didn't mind too much, I simply blamed all the problems with shopping on them, obediently trying on everything they gave me, and dragging myself from one store to another. We walked like this until the evening. Wow, I didn't even notice how long we walked. Finally, having finished shopping, we headed towards the house. Mom sealed all the purchases in a scroll, otherwise we simply wouldn't have been able to carry them even with the 5 of us, so we walked lightly. More precisely, they walked, and I again went to Obito. He loved me like a little sister and missed me very much during this time, and therefore did not want to let me go even one step away from him. After going to another store and buying groceries for dinner, we walked towards the Uchiha quarter. From there, after saying goodbye to Makoto and Rin, Obito still didn't let me go. We went home. Already near the house, Kushina tried to tear me away from Obito. He, like a small child from whom they are trying to take away his favorite toy, did not want to let me go. I was pretty fed up with this, so I used the surest method. "Obito-san, please let me go," I said quietly but firmly. By the way, during the entire walk I didn't say a word. So now, with shock, he lowers me to the ground and looks at me with disbelieving eyes. As soon as I find myself on the ground, I hide behind my mother, otherwise she will grab me in her arms again. Therefore, before he comes to his senses, I quickly add, "Goodbye, Obito-san, I'll come over to play with you and Rinchan someday." And a timid smile at the end. He's all ready. He even started to cry. Having said goodbye again, my mother and I entered the house, leaving the roaring guy alone. Once inside, I helped my mom put out the groceries and went to the bathroom to freshen up. Having quickly taken a shower, I realized that I had not brought a change of clothes. But remembering that it was just me and my mother at home, I simply wrapped myself in a towel and went into the room. There were already opened bags with things on the bed. Having taken out new underwear, knee-length home shorts and a t-shirt, I quickly changed clothes and went back down to the kitchen to help my mother with cooking. To say that Kushina was surprised would be an understatement. Yes, I have a talent for bringing people into a state of shock. That's why I am the most unpredictable ninja of Konoha. Kushina quickly recovered from the shock and rejoiced that I began to take an interest in household chores and with great pleasure began to explain to me what and how to do. I deftly followed all the instructions, trying not to worry that I already knew all this. After all, living with Bachan, I had to take on all the housework. That's how I learned to cook. Having quickly prepared dinner, we sat down to wait for my father and brother. But why were they late? But Ku came. He deftly jumped onto my lap and stared with such hungry eyes that I couldn't stand it and laughed. Kachan quickly filled his bowl with food and placed it next to the table. I ate with Kurama, and my mother decided to wait for the men. Having quickly prepared dinner, we sat down to wait for my father and brother. But why were they late? But Ku came. He deftly jumped onto my lap and stared with such hungry eyes that I couldn't stand it and laughed. Kachan quickly filled his bowl with food and placed it next to the table. I ate with Kurama, and my mother decided to wait for the men. Having quickly prepared dinner, we sat down to wait for my father and brother. But why were they late? But Ku came. He deftly jumped onto my lap and stared with such hungry eyes that I couldn't stand it and laughed. Kachan quickly filled his bowl with food and placed it next to the table. I ate with Kurama, and my mother decided to wait for the men. After eating and cleaning up the dishes after myself and Ku, I went to sort out my things. Mom offered her help and I agreed. So, with 4 hands, we quickly sorted all the packages and put everything in the closet. And just in time. Downstairs the sound of a door opening was heard. Mom hurried downstairs, wishing me good night, and I went to bed. Lying in bed and habitually hugging Ku, we decided that it was time to remove the seals from the chakra. Therefore, starting tomorrow, I begin to regain my former form. For some reason I woke up from a lack of oxygen. Opening my eyes and looking around, I came across a huge muzzle. For some reason, a huge kurama as tall as I was lying on top of me. "Kurama, get off me," I said, trying to push this carcass off me. But this bastard didn't even move his ears, on the contrary, he grumbled something contentedly and smiled. Who did I tell? Get off, red rug. Twisting around, I was able to throw him off of me. "What are you doing, you pathetic biped?" The fox immediately jumped up. I sat on the bed and looked down at him. "Don't bark, stupid fox. Why did you grow up in a dream? You almost strangled me." Seeing how Kurama laid back his ears and sat on his hind legs, I changed my anger to mercy. "Okay, let's forget it. What did you even dream about? Did you hunt bulls?" I joked. "I gave you a ride," Ku muttered quietly. But when he realized what he had said, he immediately tried to escape. "Did not have time." Why, Kurama, you're so cute. Even in my dreams you spoil me." Immediately rushed to hug him. Rizk tried to sneak away at first, but then reconciled himself. So for about 5 minutes we were just fooling around, lying on the floor. Then I very gently but firmly hugged him, pulling him towards me, and kissed him on the nose. "Thank you, Ku, for being there and taking care of me," I whispered quietly. "You're welcome, Button," he answered affectionately, clinging even closer to me and rubbing his muzzle on my cheek. "Now go wash yourself and let's go have breakfast." "Fine." I quickly washed my face, brushed my teeth and returned to the room. Approaching the closet, I began to think about what to wear. At first I wanted to dress the same as yesterday, but then I remembered that I would start training today. She chose black leggings and a sea green kimono with a pink belt. After changing my clothes, I quickly tied a high ponytail, put on standard black shinobi sandals, and walked out into the corridor. Judging by the noise below, the whole family is in the kitchen. Kurama, once again becoming a little fox, ran downstairs cheerfully. Well, what can I say, he really liked Kushina's cooking, so he rushes in anticipation to try something delicious. I can't blame him for this, because my mother really cooks very tasty food. In the kitchen, everyone was sitting and quietly having breakfast when a red-haired hurricane burst into the kitchen and jumped into Kushina's lap. Besides Naruto, he only allowed her to touch him, and then only for food. "Oh, Ku, you scared me. Have you decided to have breakfast too?" Kushina asked laughing. She quickly put his food in and was about to sit down when Naruto entered the kitchen. "Honey, are you up already? Sit down, I'll give you some now too." I smiled faintly and sat down in my seat. Mom quickly put a plate of food in front of me and sat down in her place. Kurama, who had already finished his portion, jumped onto my lap and wanted to steal something from my plate. Without thinking twice, I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and, without looking, threw him somewhere behind my back. Minato and Akira watched all this with a dumbfounded expression on their faces. First, a little fox from nowhere runs into the kitchen and Kushina calmly feeds it. Then Naruto walks in, who not only hasn't eaten with her family in 2 years, but also looks different. She no longer hides behind big, dark clothes. She looks much better now in her new clothes. But what shocked the men most was how Naruto calmly threw out the impudent little fox and continued eating. I ate calmly but quickly, got up, collected the dishes, and took them to the sink. I wanted to wash it, but Kachan gently pulled me away. I smiled weakly and pointed outside, silently saying that I would go for a walk. Mom quickly understood everything. "Okay, just come back for dinner." I nodded curtly and walked towards the exit. And then the father died. Already near the door, he coldly called out to me. "Stop. Where are you going? Are you not satisfied with the problems that you have already caused us?" "For a walk," I said quietly and smiled slightly. "I told you that I have a talent for shocking people." There Akira froze in the aisle and even forgot what he wanted to say. Stands, opens, and closes his mouth. It seems that even my father's eye twitched. I'm kidding. I waved goodbye to my mom and left. I went to a remote clearing in the forest. Once upon a time, during the time of Hashirama, this was a training ground. Then they forgot about it, and now it is a small clearing, surrounded on all sides by trees, with a river running nearby. This was my favorite place in that world. As a child, I came here to train and then just relax. This place was calming. I chose it because of its remoteness. No one will bother me here. But there was another factor. How to remove the seal if you have no chakra? That's right, use natural energy. And this place is simply overflowing with it. Having finally arrived at the clearing, I began to prepare. To remove a seal using natural energy, you need to use the power of any of the basic elements. In my case, there will be two of them, land and water, because to remove a seal of this level requires a huge amount of chakra. I could also use air, but now this body is not able to contain so much force. Using even one element without chakra is dangerous, but here there are two. That's why I use a catalyst. The tree will serve as a catalyst for unification. I quickly made a kind of circle out of branches, made special seals. On my left hand I drew an earth seal, on my right hand I drew a water seal. While I was performing these manipulations, I simultaneously listened to Kurama's explanations. Listen, Naruto, when you remove the seals, you will experience severe pain. Now your chakra and the chakra of the previous Naruto are, as it were, in cocoons of seals, so there is no chakra in your chakra channels and they are very thin. For the past week I have been running my chakra through them and expanding them. When removed, the entire chakra will try to fill the hearth and chakra channels, but because they are still thin and will simply tear them apart. Your task is to surround the entire chakra into a cocoon using natural energy and start the fusion process. The most difficult thing will be, without paying attention to the pain and without interruption, to create a cocoon thick enough to last for a month. This is how long the merger will take. Also, during this month, from time to time you will experience extreme fatigue that you can hardly even move, and this will last for 2 hours, then everything will return to normal. If the cocoon turns out to be too thin, the chakra will burst out and sever the chakra channels, and you will no longer be able to become a shinobi. If there is a lot, then natural energy will begin to absorb your own, and then you know what will happen. How do I know that the cocoon is the right thickness? Do you remember what seals you use? Seal of unlocking and control stamp. Right. We need the seal of control to regulate the flow of chakra. The stronger you become, the more chakra the seal will let through. Well, this is what I will do. So, when the cocoon is of the required thickness, the seal is activated. You will see the thin golden ligature of fusion. This will be a signal that it is time to stop. I will set up a barrier so that no one will feel the release of chakra, and I will ease your pain. Thank you. Well, let's get started. I sat in the lotus position so that my left hand touched the ground and my right hand touched the water. Feeling an influx of energy, I activated the seals. At that very moment I felt such pain, as if I was being torn apart from the inside. Overcoming the pain, I began to weave a cocoon. Soon I felt relief and my work became easier. As Kurama said, when I gained enough energy, a fusion ligature appeared. But it was almost transparent, and I almost missed it. But I was able to finish successfully. Having activated the seal, I fell to the ground exhausted. It felt like I was fighting with Madara. Having somehow come to my senses, I crawled under a tree that grew next to the river. Kurama settled down next to him and removed the barrier. That's how we fell asleep. I woke up from someone shaking me. Then, Naruto, dream. Naruto, wake up. Sitting on his knees in front of me was Itachi? What is he doing here? And he continued to bombard me with questions. What's happened? Why are you sleeping here? Naruto? But I was so tired that I didn't understand what he was saying at all. Yawning sweetly, I couldn't think of anything better than to lay my head on Itachi's lap and continue to sleep. But after 5 minutes I jumped up sharply, realizing what I had done. What's strange is that Itachi didn't react to this at all. He still sat calmly and looked at me with slight interest. Here you go, Uchiha. We sat like that for another 5 minutes until I decided to break the silence. Thank you for saving me then. You're welcome, he said with a smile, and then added, we had a mission to capture those mercenaries, and I found you by accident. Nevertheless, thank you. What are you doing here? I was walking. Aren't you going home? I shook my head negatively and stared at the surface of the water. It's strange, but this Itachi is very similar to mine, in the sense of being from my world. Although I didn't know that Itachi for a long time, I respected him very much. He became an example for me. I didn't notice how I was plunged into memories. Flashback. This happened shortly before our mission to retrieve Sasuke. I asked Grandma Tsunade to visit the archive to find out more about my parents. Yes, I already knew whose son I was. Somehow, in a fit of rage, the fox let it slip. So, while studying the documents, I came across one case. It was clear that they tried to destroy it, but something went wrong. But that's not about that now. It was a report on a top-secret S++ rank mission. Codename Destruction of Infection. Quickly skimming through the text, I was shocked. If these records are to be believed, then Itachi slaughtered the clan on the orders of the Hokage and should not be considered a criminal. Yes, the papers did not directly say that this was precisely the incident with the Uchihas, but I was not a fool, contrary to everyone's opinion, and I can put two and two together. Afterwards, I thought about it for a long time and involuntarily began to admire this man, and despise the third. After all, in order to protect the village, he agreed to destroy his clan. I definitely couldn't do that. A few days after I learned the truth, our team was sent on an escort mission. At the end of the mission, the client was ambushed. As a result, we delivered the customer safely, but Captain Yamato was injured. We did not intend to stay in that village, so we left the next day. But due to the captain's injury, we often stopped. And so, on one of these halts, I met Itachi. We had to stop again and bandage Yamato's wounds. Sakura began to treat the wounds, and I went hunting. Having caught a rabbit and butchered it, I got all dirty and decided to go wash myself. Having handed the rabbit to Sakura, I hope she won't spoil it, I went towards the river. Arriving at the place, I immediately jumped into the water. After quickly washing myself, I took off my sweatshirt and began to wash it. This is exactly what Itachi caught me doing. It was clear that he was not going to attack. Therefore, with a clear conscience, I continued my work. Itachi was clearly puzzled by my indifference, but did not give himself away. Meanwhile, I went ashore, hung my things, and created a light breeze. A side effect of Rasen Shuriken radiation. I learned how to create a breeze. It's useless in battle, but it's perfect for drying clothes like this. Tell me, shouldn't you be trying to attack me now? I heard a question behind me. But instead of answering, I asked. Answer, Itachi, why did you agree to carry out the order? Couldn't another solution have been found? Itachi stared at me in confusion, but when it dawned on him, he simply could not say anything. He just stood there and opened and closed his mouth in the silent question, how? Then, seeing something in my gaze, Itachi decided to tell me everything. He talked about his friend Shisui, and how he died, and about Danzo and the clan, and why he decided to carry out the order. I listened silently without interrupting. Then I told how I found out about the order. I am surprised. You hide behind the mask of a fool, but in reality you are quite smart, Naruto. Why do you need it? To hide the pain from prying eyes. They just won't understand me. I can't say that I love his brother, and in order to hide my feelings, I hide behind a mask. Itachi didn't say anything. Just leaving, he added. Naruto, you are the bright sun for our village. No matter what clouds cover the sky, you always find a way out and warm everyone with your smile. I believe in your light and I hope it will help Sasuke banish all the darkness in his soul. End flashback. Now, remembering that day, I began to notice strange behavior in Itachi. He behaved exactly the same as then. Even though we're just sitting, something doesn't give me peace. Not noticing that I was speaking out loud, I uttered the phrase that Itachi had once told me. We really don't know what kind of person we are until we die. When death comes to receive you, you will realize that you are. This is what death is, don't you think? What did you say? How do you know this phrase? Now I understand what was bothering me. This is the same Itachi. He recognized his words. I turned in his direction and smiled brightly and sincerely, just like I smiled in that world. An old friend once shared this wisdom. Where? Really? It can't be. Uzumaki Naruto? I didn't say anything, just nodded in agreement, continuing to smile. But how did you end up here? Did Namikaze Naruto really die that time? Yes, the local Naruto died after falling from a cliff. But it so happened that I also died in that world, and old man Rakuto did not want me to die without finding happiness. So he sent me here to live a happier life. Itachi looked at me strangely, and then laughed. Not even that, he laughed. I never thought that Rakuto Sanin was such a joker. How do you feel about life as a girl? And continued to laugh. Ku did not let me be offended by this. He just quietly crept up to Itachi and bit him on the leg. It was so comical that it was my turn to laugh. Having tormented Itachi enough, Ku jumped onto my shoulder. He really likes to ride on my neck and pretend to be a collar. After scratching him behind the ear and seeing the question in the Uchiha's eyes, I decided to clarify. This is Kurama, also known as Kyubi no Yoko, the Ninetales. I'll tell you everything later. Better tell me, how long have you been here? I've been here from the very beginning. After the abolition of Edo Tensei, I was born here. There was no Shinigami, no Rakuto like you. I grew up as an ordinary child, studied and trained. It's even funny, but here I also became a genius who entered the academy at 7, having no memories of a past life. But around the age of 8, I started having dreams. Every night the dream was a continuation of the previous one, and at some point I realized that these were not just dreams, but memories. Itachi also told a lot about the academy and his team. Oddly enough, his partners were Shisui and Akira. 3 geniuses went from starting the academy to working in ANBU. He told me how he tried to raise Sasuke, but he still grew up to be a spoiled, selfish asshole, and much more. When he finished, it was already dinner time. So we had to get ready to go home. Naruto, can you tell me what happened in that world? Let's do it another time, you can't tell it in a few words. Fine. What are you going to do now? First, I need to prepare my body to use chakra, and then I will restore my strength. Do you want to help with training? I'll be glad. So, while talking, we reached my house. Well, see you later, Teo, he smiled at me. Why the sun? Remember, I said that you are the sun of the village. I am confident that you will shine in this world too. Thank you, Ikuan. I'm looking forward to our training sessions. And while Itachi was moving away from the new nickname, I happily disappeared out the door. We set off in a small group. Me as the captain, 2 more ANBU from my squad and the customer. It takes 4 days to get to the land of swamps by the usual route. But since we needed to get there undetected, we had to take secret paths, and the journey took a week. The situation was worsened by the fact that our employer was a simple civilian, and he could not withstand long movements. I had to stop often. Like Kakashi-sensei said, this mission is kind of strange. Considering that Satsuki, as he said, was delivering important information and hiring a squad of ANBU, he should have been hunted anyway. And it doesn't matter that we were moving secretly, we had to be attacked at least somewhere. But this doesn't happen. I am also alarmed by the fact that quite recently I and my squad in the land of swamps destroyed a criminal organization. Now she was still weak, but according to our spies, in a year or 2 she would reach the Akatsuki level. Therefore, we were entrusted with a mission of destruction before all this escalated into the 5th war. And, as it turned out, my fears were not in vain. On the 6th day of our journey, fog fell on the ground. This is typical for this area, but Kurama felt something strange. "Naruto, be careful, this fog is somehow unusual. It doesn't do any harm, but there's something wrong with it, and I can't figure out what." "Understood." I signaled to the team to be on guard, and we continued on our way. The next day we were attacked. It was a cunningly planned ambush. It was not for nothing that I remembered that organization. The surviving members set a trap for us. There were only 10 attackers. But that fog, according to Kurama, contains some new type of poison that blocks chakra and somehow affects the nervous system. This has no effect on Kurama and me, but the other two, unfortunately, have already been killed. I tried to protect the customer and fight back. Having created a dozen clones, he left 3 for protection and rushed into battle with the rest. Having created a fireball, he used wind blades to divide and increase the size of the resulting balls. Thanks to this technique, 5 opponents remained. But they didn't lag behind either. Using water and lightning techniques, they were able to get 3 clones. I noticed that one of the attackers separated and headed towards Yusatsuki. Switching places with the clones, he successfully repelled the attack. Having killed the attacker, I switched to the remaining 2, the clones managed to kill 2, but they were also hit. Left alone against 2, I was about to use the Fire Phoenix technique when everything swam before my eyes. It turned out that that fog also affected me, although not immediately. Thanks to Kurama, the effect of the poison lasted only a few seconds. But this was enough for the enemies. While I was coming to my senses, one of the attackers managed to bitch again. This bastard cut off my hand. Why does everyone like to deprive me of my hand? I jumped back to the customer to change battle tactics, but even here a setup awaited me. No wonder this bastard is called Yusatsuki. This lying bastard, as soon as I turned my back to him, stuck an obviously poisoned blade into me. Apparently, he decided that I had already lost and there was no point in pretending. Taking advantage of my position, the other 2 also pierced me with katanas. Well, it's my fault, I relaxed a little. But I'm not going to give in to them either. Quickly folding the seals, I used one of my own wind techniques. Bloody Tornado. The technique is similar to Rasen Shuriken, only for close distances. Blades of wind emanate from my body at great speed, forming vortices that destroy everything within a radius of 10 m. Hence the name. Having destroyed all the enemies, I sank to the ground exhausted. Sorry, Kurama, but it looks like we won't get out of this mess alive. The wounds are too serious, and because of the poison on the knife, I can't control my chakra properly. I think it's time to say goodbye. You know, Naruto, I lived a long and lonely life. But the last 10 years have been the happiest of my life. I don't regret bringing our lives together. And I certainly don't regret that I'm leaving this world with you. I smiled forcedly at my friend and coughed. Looks like this is the end. Somehow gathering chakra, I used the summoning technique. A small green frog appeared from a cloud of smoke. Hello, me, Kaka, could you, take our bodies, and take them in the tree. This is how the hero of the CHVSH died, without even being able to fully voice his last request. I woke up in some strange space. It looked like the night sky, the same black with white splashes. Beautiful. I don't know how long I swam like that, admiring the beauty, until I felt someone's presence. Turning around, I saw Kurama. I immediately rushed to him, hugging him. I'm so glad you're here, but where are we? I don't know, but it seems we'll find out now. And to confirm his words, Rikudo appeared in front of us. Hello, my children. Naruto, my boy, I am terribly sorry that your fate turned out so badly. I don't want you to die like this, without knowing true happiness. Therefore, I want to send you to a parallel world, so that there you can forget all your sorrows and find your happiness. Having exchanged glances with Kurama, we immediately understood each other. Okay, we agree. It seems like you don't even doubt that you'll go with Kurama? The old man smiled. I answered him the same. It can't be any other way, because we are one whole. Well, Naruto, this world will be different from yours, but not much. But I am sure that in these changes you will find what you have been looking for so long. Good luck, Naruto, Kurama. And the world was shrouded in white light. Naru, honey, will you train alone today? Kushina asked, setting the table. No, Mom, Ikuin returned from a mission yesterday, so today we are training together. Walking into the kitchen, I kissed my mother on the cheek and sat down at the table. 2 weeks have already passed since the start of training with Itachi, and I still haven't talked about what happened in that world. Yes, and Ikuin is not rushing me with this. Kushina placed a plate of breakfast in front of me, getting my attention. Then I'll make you lunch for 2. Otherwise, I know you will get carried away and forget about everything in the world. By the way, I told my mom about the training on the first day. And she became my accomplice in hiding these very trainings. Flashback. The next day, after talking with Itachi, I deliberately waited for Minato and Akira to leave and went down to the kitchen. Good morning, Kachan. Good, dear, sit down, we'll have breakfast, and immediately put 2 plates on the table. I am very pleased that my mother has breakfast with me. Kachan, could you lend me a kunai? I want to start training. Kushina almost choked in surprise. Oh, I guess I should have waited until she finished eating. At first, she stared at me in disbelief, then slowly the realization of what had been said dawned. Naruto, are you serious now? I simply nodded, smiling shyly. At that moment, Kurama jumped onto his shoulder and immediately regretted it. Because at that very second we were swept away by a hurricane called Happy Kushina. They squeezed us for a couple of minutes until I let out a death squeak. Still, Mom is not a weak woman. She immediately let me go and, like I had recently, smiled shyly. I'm sorry, Naru, I'm just so glad that you finally decided to forget the past and start training. Wait a bit. Mom ran away somewhere, apparently to the armory, because... Soon she returned with a small backpack filled with various weapons. There were kunai, shuriken, sanbon, and, it seems, even kusarigama. Yes, she's really happy, she's so lively. Mom, I would also like to ask, can you not tell your father and brother about this for now? Of course, it will be our secret. But why don't you at least tell Akira? He could help you with your training. I don't want to tell him until we establish a relationship with him. Besides, Ikuin will help me with training. Who? Itachi. We agreed to train together yesterday. Oh, Ikuin, then? Should I be getting ready for my wedding yet? Kachan winked at me playfully. Ma, I said pitifully, Itachi and I are just friends. I respect him for his aspirations, intelligence, and outlook on life and nothing more. Okay, I'll run, I don't want to keep Ikuin waiting. Okay, whatever you say. Run, of course, just don't strain yourself too much. End flashback. Thanking Mom for lunch, which she sealed in a scroll, because Itachi could print it out, I quickly got ready and rushed towards the training grounds. I was in a hurry to meet Itachi, because I really missed him during these 4 days that he was on a mission. It's so strange, the one who was an enemy in that world, although for a short time and then became an ally, in this world became my best friend. We share our experiences, support each other, share our joys, and it's so natural, as if we've known each other all our lives. I am very glad that he was reborn in this world. While thinking, I didn't notice how I arrived at the training ground. Itachi wasn't there, so I started warming up. I ran 10 laps, 40 squats, push-ups and shuriken throwing. Now I can easily hit 5 out of 10, but at the beginning I couldn't even really finish. What about the throws? I couldn't even run 1 lap normally, and at the end I was almost crawling, my body was so unprepared. Having already finished warming up, I felt Itachi approaching. Thanks to Kurama, even with my chakra sealed, I can develop my sensory abilities. Turning around, I cheerfully threw myself on Itachi's neck. "Ikuin, you're finally back." "Hey, Teo," he patted me on the head. "Well, let's start training?" I immediately jumped down and took a fighting stance. So we trained for about 3 hours, practicing strikes, and Itachi pointed out some mistakes and taught different fighting styles. Until the attack happened. Itachi was really scared because I hadn't told him about chakra yet. He quickly carried me under a tree. "Teo, how are you?" "What happened?" "Don't worry, Ikuin, everything is fine. It's just that while my chakra is merging, I will have attacks like this. They are harmless, just extreme fatigue for a couple of hours, and then I will be like a cucumber. This is a kind of reboot for my body." "Listen, Naruto, I kept wanting to ask how it happened that your chakra remained sealed. Are there really no masters of the required level in Uzushio?" "You see, when those bastards set the seal, they touched the seal of the 8 trigrams. No, they didn't ruin it or anything. It's just that their stamp was superimposed on mine. Because of this, the unfortunate Uzumaki did not remove the seal. For fear of hurting the Kyuubi's seal, I scratched Kurama, who came running to me, behind the ear and continued. To remove this seal, you need to do painstaking work, and of the remaining members of the clan, alas, no one has such skills. Mom also tried, but her knowledge was not enough." Kurama, having increased to the size of a large dog, settled down between us, laying his head on Itachi's lap, allowing himself to be stroked, and covering me with his tails. Yes, the great and terrible Kyuubi no Yoko, an ardent hater of all red-eyed people, recognized one of them, and even allows himself to be stroked. Having made myself comfortable, I fell asleep, and, looking at us, Itachi also dozed off. Itachi's POV. It was quite strange to live one life and dream about another. However, I quickly understood everything and decided that I would live the second life given to me, protecting both my family and the village, and would not make the same mistakes. The clan was not going to make a revolution in this world, so I spent all my free time with Sasuke or training with Shisui. Speaking of which, unlike Shisui, this one is a real ulcer. This is his way of testing people. He lost his parents in the war, and since he is the nephew of the head of the clan, many tried to make friends with him and gain favor with him. So he weeded out those who wanted to get from him only profitable connections, and not his friendship. There were few such people. This was a clan, and Akira Namikaze, another little genius in our circle. We were always together. Because our families were friends, we constantly visited each other. This is how I met an exact copy of one restless blonde from another life. Naruto Namikaze, the little sun that captured the hearts of us all. She was only 2 when we first met, but even then her smile and ringing laugh could drive away all the sorrows of this world, just as Uzumaki Naruto did. But everything changed 4 years later. Her light dimmed and her voice faded. After the kidnapping, Naruto didn't let anyone near her anymore and closed herself off from the world. I don't know what exactly happened in the Namikaze family, but after that Minato somehow changed. My father also noticed this, but after 2 years he could not understand the reason, but he did not give up trying to figure it out. But even then her smile and ringing laugh could drive away all the sorrows of this world, as Uzumaki Naruto did. But everything changed 4 years later. Her light dimmed and her voice faded. After the kidnapping, Naruto didn't let anyone near her anymore and closed herself off from the world. I don't know what exactly happened in the Namikaze family, but after that Minato somehow changed. My father also noticed this, but after 2 years he could not understand the reason, but he did not give up trying to figure it out. But even then her smile and ringing laugh could drive away all the sorrows of this world, as Uzumaki Naruto did. But everything changed 4 years later. Her light dimmed and her voice faded. After the kidnapping, Naruto didn't let anyone near her anymore and closed herself off from the world. I don't know what exactly happened in the Namikaze family, but after that Minato somehow changed. My father also noticed this, but after 2 years he could not understand the reason, but he did not give up trying to figure it out. Sasuke was the complete opposite of Naruto. If Naruto did not boast of his origin, then Sasuke showed with his appearance that he was better than many. Where he got this from is unclear. He is arrogant, selfish and terribly spoiled, although neither Mikoto nor Fugaku allowed any relaxation in their upbringing. They loved children very much, tried to indulge their desires, but in moderation, and at the same time they raised them strictly. But even with such an upbringing, Sasuke managed to grow up to be an arrogant bastard. He is only 8, and he already has the habits of a spoiled prince. I'm afraid to imagine what will happen when he goes to the academy. I think if Naruto had not closed herself off, she would have been able to change him for the better. Speaking of her, I was so scared when I found her during the mission, covered in blood, barely breathing. And what a shock I felt when I heard her barely pronounce my name. I even forgot about Akira. He quickly transported Naruto to the hospital with his Hiraishin, and I had to finish the mission. The second meeting took place a week later. I had a day off and I decided to take a walk in the forest. But I certainly didn't expect to meet Naruto in the same clearing. She was lying under a tree with some fox cub and was unconscious. I rushed to her to check her condition. It turned out she was just sleeping. With half-hearted grief, I was able to wake her up and asked what she was doing here, not really expecting an answer. It was all the more unexpected to receive it. And when I found out that she was Uzumaki Naruto, who, by the will of Rakudo, ended up in the girl's body, I couldn't stand it. I literally neighed like a horse. It was so unexpected that I couldn't resist. Inquiring about plans for the future, he offered to help with training. I also started calling her Teo, and she called me Ikuin. And now we have been training for 2 weeks. Of course, I wasn't always able to help, I went on missions, but even so she trained alone. And she already has good results. But this miracle completely forgot to warn me about some features of her condition. I was so scared for her. She's also in no hurry to tell what happened in that world, but I'm in no hurry. I understand that it takes time. And now, lying under a tree, I was thinking how, in such a short period of time, Naruto became so dear to me. No, this is not love, or rather, it's not like that. I fell in love with her like a little sister, but I don't experience more sublime feelings. She has become my best friend, with whom I can share everything, just like her. Perhaps our past life influenced us that way, we just knew that we definitely wouldn't be lovers. So while I was thinking, I didn't notice that I dozed off. I woke up from the feeling of a familiar chakra. It was Shisui. Carefully removing Kurama's head from his lap, he tried not to wake him up. But most likely he had already noticed someone else's chakra and was not sleeping. I gently stroked his head, as if to say that everything was fine, and went to meet my friend. Hello, Shisui. Hello, Itachi. Are you having a day off today? Will you practice with me? I saw no reason to refuse. Naruto was resting behind a large oak tree on the other side of the training ground, and I put up a light barrier, the only one I can, so we wouldn't bother her. So I immediately took a fighting stance. Shisui understood everything and immediately rushed to attack. We used both taijutsu and ninjutsu. During the fight, we didn't notice how 2 hours had passed. We jumped in different directions and were just about to come into hand-to-hand combat again, when I felt a strong grip on my neck. This little miracle took advantage of the fact that she has no chakra and cannot be felt, sneaked up behind me and hung on my neck. Ikuin, what are you doing here without me? Shall we continue where we left off? What a petty beast, she completely ignored Shisui and decided to make fun of me. Ahem, Itachi, have you become a pedophile? Oh, what a nasty smile. Shisui, be like that. Shut up, Shisui. Better get acquainted. Naruto Namikaze. Naruto is Uchiha Shisui, my cousin and, at the same time, my best friend. Oh, so that's what you are, a huge disgrace to the Hokage family. I frowned at this description. Although I know that he likes to be sarcastic, I also need to know when to stop. And Naruto, in general, at least give a damn. She looked at me with such a look, as if saying, is this caustic misunderstanding the same great Shunshin no Shisui? I awkwardly scratched the back of my head and shrugged, as if to say it is what it is. She began to carefully study Shisui, and then said something that even I did not expect to hear. Why are all of you Uchiha so attractive? It's infuriating, she muttered through her teeth. It's not like that, little thing, you fell in love with me at first sight, Shisui asked, with a malicious smile. What are you doing, dear? God forbid. I need you like a dog needs a fifth leg. It was my old complexes that started talking in me. She even crossed herself, and Shisui fell into a drop from such an answer and for the first time did not know how to answer. Hey, Teo, have you looked in the mirror lately? I asked with a chuckle. Just shut up, Ikuin, you understand perfectly well what I mean. Looking into her offended eyes, I laughed, and then she picked up my laughter. We probably would have laughed for a long time if Shisui's question hadn't stopped us. Hey, Itachi, what kind of relationship are you in? Naruto and I looked at each other and I simply answered. We are friends, and Naruto added. Don't be jealous, Yukishinak, no one will replace you as your best friend. I'll just push you aside a little, taking a place in his heart as the best girlfriend. She really drew out the last words. Oh, and Naruto turns out to be such an ulcer. Shisui is not inferior at all. He can bring them together in the future. No, it's better not to, the world won't survive two of them, Itachi thought, looking at this bickering couple. If you knew, Itachi, that your words would come true, you would be afraid to even think about it. At the same time, Shisui was trying to find what to answer to this. But he was disturbed by noise in the bushes. Everyone immediately looked there, and Kurama came closer to Naruto, and even growled quietly. It was strange, Ku never growled at anyone. And Shisui jumped to the side at this, he did not notice the fox until he approached, and even growls. But that's not about that now. From the bushes jumped out at us. Sasuke? What is he doing here? Ni-san. He began capriciously, Nii-san, why did you leave me alone? You promised to train me today. Sasuke, you and I trained this morning. Now I want to spend time with friends. Only now did Sasuke look at the people around him. His gaze lingered angrily on Naruto. Brother, why are you hanging around with this empty place? She is a disgrace to our village. The Hokage's daughter refused to become a shinobi. She's a nobody, there's no point wasting your time on her, it's better to train me. And if you so want, let Shisui play with her, he looked triumphantly at Naruto and grinned. Oh, you little bastard, aren't you taking on too much? Shisui said. You need to learn to keep your mouth shut. But Shisui, you often watch your words, Sasuke retorted. At least I'm not proud of my position, like some people. Oh you. While the two were bickering, I looked at Naruto. And then he wanted to kill Sasuke. My little sunshine could hardly hold back her tears. There was so much pain, longing, and sadness in her eyes that I became scared. And her gaze was directed at me. When everyone turned their attention to her, she abruptly stormed away. She deftly jumped on Kurama, and they disappeared from our eyes. Teo. You see, she's such a coward that she couldn't even answer, she just ran away. Let's go train already. Shut up, Sasuke. Shisui looked after him. I took off and ran after them, but they disappeared so quickly that I didn't know where to look for them until I remembered a clearing in the forest. I quickly ran into that thicket. Having run to the place, I saw Naruto sitting on the bank of the river and looking at the water with empty eyes. For some reason, Kurama wasn't around. I carefully sat down next to him. Teo, what happened? Did Sasuke's words really hurt you that much? Before I could finish speaking, she immediately attacked me, sobbing bitterly. Ikuan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I couldn't live up to your expectations. I couldn't drive away his darkness. I killed him. I killed the one I loved so much with my own hands. I killed Sasuke. Sorry. I sat and couldn't understand what she was talking about. But then I understood everything. She loved Sasuke in that world and she had to kill him with her own hands. That's why she suffered so much. I began to stroke her head soothingly, saying all sorts of nonsense to distract her. When she more or less calmed down, she told me everything from the very beginning. About her childhood, about the first difficult mission, after which she, then still he, began to fall in love with Sasuke, how he left, about the war and what happened next. I listened without interrupting, because she poured out her soul. Having spoken, she simply fell asleep on my lap, and I thought about her words. How does she feel about Sasuke now? Will she again experience the pain that she kept in her heart in that world? Okay, I'll ask when she wakes up. End Itachi's POV. I woke up on Itachi's lap. We were still sitting on the river bank, and he leaned against a stone and seemed to be dozing. But, sensing my awakening, he immediately opened his eyes. How are you, Teo? Have you calmed down yet? Yes. Everything is fine. Forgive me for this hysteria. It's just that when I saw Sasuke and the way you looked at him, I simply couldn't contain my emotions. Don't apologize, I understand everything. Look, Naruto, maybe I'm minding my own business, but how do you feel about Sasuke now? I mean, you loved him for so many years, maybe your feelings have changed? I even thought about it somehow. But is it really true how I feel about this topic? You know, when I got here, I really loved Sasuke and was very afraid of meeting him. But now that I finally saw him, I realized that I really didn't feel anything. I don't know, maybe old man Rakuto helped by taking away these feelings, or I just experienced them, but now I feel, I don't even know how to describe it, maybe lightness, confidence. How best to put it, I know that this is not the person with whom I would be happy, and my feelings for him will not return. Something that simply does not exist cannot come to life. Understand? Besides, Sasuke's behavior here doesn't add any attractiveness points to him. Speaking of which, how did he even grow up like this? Me, what am I? I'm not hinting at anything at all, just a little bit, yeah. Was this a stone in my garden now? Oh, the way he looks offended is simply adorable. I don't even know how this happened. It's just that at some point everyone began to pay attention to him, and he imagined himself to be a king. No matter how much I tried to calm his temper, it was all to no avail. For some reason, he decided that no one was his equal and that he stood above everyone else. Ikuan, don't pout, you're certainly adorable, but I like it better when you smile. He immediately smiled at this. Okay, let's not talk about sad things, we'll sort things out with Sasuke later, but now let's go home, it's already late. We got up, and Itachi was about to accompany me when I stopped him. No, Ikuan, you won't accompany me. Everything is fine with me, however, I can easily walk there on my own. But you should find Sasuke before he does something weird. Or worse, didn't get enough snark from Shisui. He's had enough of his arrogance. Are you sure? Yes. I don't want your brother to be upset with you because of me. Okay, be careful, it's late. He kissed my forehead and disappeared into the shunshin. I slowly walked towards the house. Kurama never came, and I had the perfect chance to think things over alone. At first, for some reason, my thoughts concerned Shisui. According to Itachi, Shisui was a very humble and realistic person. He was not proud of his talent and accomplishments, and when others made mistakes, he was willing to point them out. He had no prejudices, so he stubbornly did not cling to any one ideal and sought to see the unique nature of the current state of affairs. And how could such an ulcer arise from such a person? The question is clearly unanswered. Although, this is a different world, and the people here are different. Take Sasuke, for example. In that world, he was kind, loving his parents and Itachi, respecting his clan members. It was after the destruction of the clan that he became cold, indifferent, somewhat cruel and arrogant. But even then, he didn't have that impudence. Here, even in childhood, he had a certain narcissism. Although he was a cheerful child, he always wanted all the attention. And with age this became more pronounced. I don't know how Itachi tried to re-educate him, but only the victory in battle of someone whom he considered weaker than himself would help. I know this from my own experience. So, while thinking about Sasuke, my thoughts smoothly flowed to my brother. Akira loved his sister very much, but because of his stupidity, he allowed them to move away from each other. And his admiration for his father played an important role. Oddly enough, he is the only one who did not notice the drastic change in his father. Or rather, not so, he noticed, but did not attach any importance to it, chalking it all up to dashed hopes. Akira was the most naive in the family, despite being a genius. In that world, Iruka-sensei became a kind of older brother for me. So now I want to feel what it's like to have a brother. And for this I need to establish contact with Akira, but I rarely see him. Unlike Itachi, for some reason he is at work all the time, we only see each other at breakfast, and then rarely. It seems that he is avoiding me. Maybe I should ask my mom? So, while thinking, I didn't notice how I entered a quiet alley. I woke up only when I realized that everything around was not just quiet, but deserted. And this, despite the fact that it's not even 7 yet. I became wary and began to carefully examine the area. As soon as I realized that I was under Genjutsu, I immediately felt a prick in my neck. The awakening was not the most rosy. Not only does it seem like I was injected with some kind of poison, that I can't let alone move, I can't even say anything. I still can't contact Kurama. But this was not enough. I woke up in some barn, smelling smoke. I began to try to do at least something, but it turned out to be extremely bad, that is, it didn't work at all. It looks like my kidnapper decided to simply burn me. The fire was getting closer and closer. I was already beginning to choke on the smoke, when on the verge of consciousness I heard a voice. What a shame, you can't move. But you still resist. It's not worth it, let yourself go. Let despair take over. Well, go ahead, break the seal and release the demon. Let him go on a rampage and destroy what you hate so much. Come on, you don't want to burn alive. That's right, Kurama. I have to call him. But how to do this if the connection is blocked? Think. Exactly. Oh, and I'll get it from Ku for what I want to do, but there's no time for that now. As the stranger said, I'm not in a hurry to die again. Having concentrated, I began to concentrate Kurama's chakra, as the only one in free use, in the throat area, blocking the poison and strengthening the vocal cords, and screamed with all my strength, Kurama. Author's POV. Meanwhile, in the Uchiha house, Itachi first returned back to the training ground, but not finding anyone there, he went straight home. Entering the house, he immediately heard Sasuke's indignation. Father, can you imagine, instead of studying with me, he spends time with this stupid thing. She is worthless, a disgrace to the village, everyone knows that she is nothing. How dare this idiot even ask Aniki to train her? Tusan, you should stop Itachi from working with her, he's just wasting his time. It would be better if he taught me. As far as I remember, Sasuke, Itachi studied with you in the morning, Fugaku answered calmly. And what? He should spend all his time with me. And I see you are becoming more and more impudent, Shisui decided to get into the dialogue. Itachi decided not to listen anymore and intervene. Entering the kitchen, he saw everyone. Mikoto, as always, was cooking something. Shisui, what had he completely forgotten here? He has a house himself, drinking tea. Fugaku was reading the newspaper and trying to understand what the eldest son had done, that the youngest was vomiting and throwing around. Sasuke himself ran circles around the kitchen, indignant. In my opinion, it's up to me to decide whether I'm wasting my time or not, Itachi said a little rudely. He really didn't like that Ototo spoke about his friend like that, without even knowing her. But Aniki, she's useless, besides, she's a recluse and a weakling, what can you teach her? I'm better than her, and stronger, I'm already learning elemental techniques, but she doesn't even have chakra. Now, Sasuke, you are much weaker than Teo. Unlike you, she is much more stubborn. And if you continue to behave like this, by the time she gets admitted, she will be stronger than you. As for the chakra, you can be strong without it. Think about my words, stupid little brother. Hey, Itachi, I kept wanting to ask, why do you call her Teo? Shisui decided to ask with a slight mockery in his voice, clearly again hinting at their relationship. Because she is the sun, Itachi answered simply. Here Fugaku decided to intervene in the conversation. Itachi, is that girl you're talking about? Yes, father, as you thought, this. But he was not allowed to finish by a loud cry, which was probably heard by the whole village. Kurama? Naruto? Itachi even seemed to turn white from this scream. Fugaku-sama, I report. An old building on the outskirts of the village has just caught fire. The fire had already engulfed the entire building. It is unknown if anyone is inside, but so far, there have been no injuries. A team has already been sent to eliminate the fire and its consequences. Okay, gather another squad to find out the causes of the fire. Itachi didn't listen further, he hurried to the outskirts, because he knew that there was a victim, and it was Naruto. For some reason, Shisui followed him. Arriving at the place, they saw a rather strange picture. Konoha police had already arrived at the scene and were using water techniques to try to put out the fire. But that's exactly what they tried. The fire, despite all attempts to extinguish it, only flared up, but did not spread to other buildings. It was as if he were alive. Itachi and Shisui were about to join when the building collapsed. The flame still did not allow anyone to approach the building, wanting to destroy it completely. Itachi was about to throw himself towards the rubble, not caring about the flames, when a noise was heard from under them. The next moment, a nine-tailed fox, the size of a large dog, jumped out from under the rubble, and Naruto was lying unconscious on his back. At first, the patrol decided that it was an enemy, but the Uchiha quickly calmed everyone down, rushing to help the couple. He was very worried about his girlfriend's condition. A quick inspection showed that she was not injured, except for a couple of minor burns. But she still needs to be taken to the hospital. Which is what Itachi did. End POV author. Deja vu. Just like then, I woke up in the hospital, my whole body hurt again, and to add to this a terrible pain in my throat, and Ku was sleeping next to me. It seems that I overdid it and almost tore the ligaments. It's good that I used purified fox chakra, otherwise the consequences would have been worse. Kurama specifically cleansed my chakra to expand my chakra channels. Of course, over time I will be able to use it even if it is not purified, since my chakra has a demonic admixture, but this is not soon. According to our calculations, I will be able to study the cover no sooner than in a year. Until then, I will strengthen the chakra channels. Looking around the room, I came across an interesting picture. Aniki was sleeping on a chair next to the bed, in the most uncomfortable position possible. I wanted to call him, but only a faint wheeze came out of my throat. Okay, that means I can't speak normally yet. My fidgeting attracted my brother's attention, and he immediately woke up. Naruto? Are you awake? Are you feeling good? Wait, I'll call the doctor. God, he looks like his mother now, he's just as worried. I took his hand, shook my head and smiled weakly, as if to say that I was fine and didn't need a doctor yet. He somehow quickly calmed down and sat back, lowering his head. He looked like a naughty puppy, only his drooping ears and tail were missing. I saw that he was tormented by doubts, he wanted to talk to me, but did not know how. Therefore, sitting comfortably on the bed, she put her hand on his closed one and smiled softly, encouraging him to start a conversation. Akira was at first taken aback, and then pulled himself together and began to speak. Naruto, forgive me, for moving away from you like that, he spoke very slowly, clearly choosing the right words. I didn't rush him, continuing to hold his hand, giving him a chance to speak out. On that day when you were found barely alive, I didn't know what to do, I blamed myself for not having noticed. And then you said you wouldn't be a shinobi. Frankly, I was angry with you then. I thought that on the contrary, you would want to become stronger so that this would not happen again. Moreover, your father was disappointed in you, he also wanted you to become stronger, and then such a blow. We didn't know then that your hearth was sealed. And when they found out, my father moved away even more, and I realized what a fool I was when I was offended by you, and decided to fix everything. But it was already too late. You closed yourself off and didn't let any of us in. And then I thought that you would move away and reach out to us again. But time passed, everything only got worse, I again made a mistake, letting everything take its course. But how to fix everything? And then that mission to capture criminals when Itachi found you barely alive on a cliff. I thought that if something happened to you, or, Kami forbid, you died, I definitely wouldn't forgive myself. When I took you to the hospital, I promised myself that I would definitely restore our connection, even if your father continued to despise you, I would support you. But again, due to being busy, I couldn't see and talk to you. And today, returning home, I heard you scream. Even though you were silent for 2 years, I still remember your voice. I immediately rushed there, already smelling the fire. I didn't want to think about anything, but when I arrived at the place, the building had already collapsed, but no one could come closer, the fire wouldn't let in. Then I thought about the worst, when a fox jumped out from under the rubble with you on its back. Frankly, I immediately decided that this was the culprit of the fire, and I wanted to rush to save you. Although I wasn't the only one who thought so, everyone who was there thought the same thing. Only Itachi rushed to help you, and I thought that he was simply the first to react to the danger. The fox did not even resist, but approached him. Then I too died away and rushed to help, carrying you here with a Haration. Akira raised his head and looked at me with such a pleading look, finishing. Naru, please forgive me if you can. I really want us to communicate like before. And closed his eyes. Therefore, he did not see my further actions, and therefore at first he was taken aback. I carefully walked to the edge of the bed and hugged him tightly, whispering quietly. I also want to return to our old relationship. Thank you for worrying about me, Anai-san. Aniki also hugged me tightly, and then his gaze fell on the bed where Kurama was sleeping. He did not immediately realize that this was the same fox. That one was the size of a large dog, and this one was small, like a kitten. Akira patted me on the shoulder. Naruto, who is this? I pulled away and looked in bewilderment in the direction my brother pointed. Kurama slept there. I looked questioningly at my brother, and then realized that only my mother knew about Ku from the family, although everyone saw him on the first day. This is Ku, my friend, assistant and faithful comrade. He's a Nen-ken, I stroked the sleeping fox, and he bit me in response. Well, I didn't like that they woke him up, so tell me, why bite him right away? This lifted everyone's spirits in the ward. I was discharged the next day. Kachan and Nissan came to pick me up. At home I asked my brother if he wanted to train me, to which he immediately agreed. Besides, he's on vacation. So for the remaining 2 weeks, the 4 of us continued to study. Why 4? It's just that for some reason, Shisui also showed up with us. Who also had free days while the team was recovering from the mission. But I didn't pay attention to him, the Uchihas trained mostly together, because all my attention was directed to Nissan. We quickly found a common language, and now we are happy to train together. Akira showed many new techniques, taught meditation, and helped with calligraphy. Although he knew that I could not use chakra, all his actions were aimed at improving control. But all good things, as a rule, come to an end. So our communication with Akira stopped. Not in the sense that we quarreled. It's just that his vacation was a short break before a long-term mission. His team is sent to patrol the borders. Which means we won't see each other for a year and a half. Mom threw something like a farewell party. And she even invited the Uchiha family. The meeting went well, except for Sasuke's selfishness and Shisui's slight sarcasticness. At parting, Akira left me a bunch of scrolls so that I wouldn't neglect our training with him. And also my old scrolls with the school curriculum so that I could prepare for admission. The next day, Aniki went on a mission, and I began my chakra training. After all, the merger was finally completed. It's been a year since I came into this world. During this time, almost nothing has changed. I still train with Naruko and Shisui, although now I am also trained by Kurama. With him, we study ninjutsu and the use of fans. Only Itachi knows that I have chakra. I didn't even tell Kachan about it. Speaking of her, everything is strange at my house. Akira has not yet returned from the mission. We correspond with him, but rarely. Mom took it upon herself to teach me how to cook. And since I already knew how to cook in that world, although I won't say that I was a real chef, I could cook not very complex dishes well. Learning was quick. Now I often cooked breakfast. Kachan couldn't be happier that I was doing everything so quickly. And it's not just about cooking. I also made good progress in calligraphy and taijutsu, which she also taught me. But with Minato, there are those very strange things. He either doesn't notice me at all, or humiliates me, or asks how my day went, and sometimes he even pats me on the head, like a loving parent, and smiles affectionately. I am beginning to understand what ultimately happened to my father, but for now I will not jump to any hasty conclusions. I still need to expand my chakra flow in order to use the necessary technique. And then I'll probably find out what's wrong with Tusan. Right, if anyone has forgotten, Naruto still has a seal on the hearth that controls the output of chakra. The stronger it becomes, the greater the flow of chakra. Now she won't be able to withstand her old chakra volume. I still need to expand my chakra flow in order to use the necessary technique. And then I'll probably find out what's wrong with Tusan. Right, if anyone has forgotten, Naruto still has a seal on the hearth that controls the output of chakra. The stronger it becomes, the greater the flow of chakra. Now she won't be able to withstand her old chakra volume. I still need to expand my chakra flow in order to use the necessary technique. And then I'll probably find out what's wrong with Tusan. Right, if anyone has forgotten, Naruto still has a seal on the hearth that controls the output of chakra. The stronger it becomes, the greater the flow of chakra. Now she won't be able to withstand her old chakra volume. Now I'm back in training. Quickly warming up, she created shadow clones. This was the first technique I learned. With her help it was easier for me to learn other techniques. And now I sent some of the clones to train strikes, some to train throws, some more to train ninjutsu, a few more to meditate, a couple to practice kenjutsu. And she took up Fuin herself. In general, first of all, I decided to master Fuinjutsu and learn ninjutsu, the minimum required for now. Ikuan once asked why I study Fuin first, instead of restoring my strength. Flashback. This happened somewhere in the middle of the second month of our training. Itachi helped me with chakra control. The first week I couldn't use it properly at all. It was a disaster. But Ku quickly reassured me. He explained that this was normal, it was all about the print. Due to the fact that I am used to operating with large volumes of chakra, now it is difficult for me to adjust to the meager one. So, in the second week I was finally able to create shadow clones, but only 10 of them. Having quickly distributed the tasks, she sat down to print herself. Itachi was then surprised. Listen, Teo, why did you decide to take up Fuin and not develop techniques? I don't have much chakra right now to create more clones, but this is enough to learn the techniques. Now I want to learn a small minimum of techniques. Although, no, not like that. I will learn the techniques gradually, raising their level as my strength increases. But the clones will do it. The more clones there are, the more techniques they will learn. I'll start studying Fuin. Now I will explain why. So, where to start? In general, many people underestimate Fuin masters, both before, when there were many great masters, and now, when there are almost none left. Yes, they are respected and admired, but underestimated. Everyone thinks that Fuin masters can simply be sealed and an explosion seal drawn. And the stronger the master, the stronger the technique. In a sense this is true, but not entirely. The art of Fuin is vast and is divided into two types, calligraphic seals and hand seals. The first ones, they are also simply called seals, include explosion seals, sealing scrolls, in general, all the Fuin that we draw. By the way, size techniques are also a type of seal, it's just that the original source was lost, and the seal began to be considered ninpo. The first type is very simple to perform and anyone can master it. In terms of complexity, they go from D to B. Then the second type is the seals that we fold. As an example, take the seal of the 8 trigrams, control seal, bonding seals, and others. These seals are very complex and can include up to 40 hand seals. But there are also easy ones, such as paralyzing seals. This type is divided in difficulty from C to SSS+. Fuin masters are also divided into 4 classes: Apprentice, Journeyman, Master, Grandmaster. The first 2 classes can only create seals, and apprentices and hand seals from the C class. The other 2 can create high-grade hand seals up to S, and only great masters can create SSS grade hand seals. By the way, Kachan is a master, and the seal that they installed for me was S+ class, and I have no idea how they were able to install it. Either they had a great master, or they used a ready-made seal. This method of using hand seals was invented a long time ago. As you know, anyone can use seals, but only Uzumaki can create. Although no, not quite like that. Anyone can create simple D and C class seals, such as explosion seals or light barriers. But complex seals are only for Uzumaki. This is related to our founder, the demon Kagutsuchi. He gave us knowledge, and the power to create is in our blood. It's kind of like spiritual energy. When creating a seal, we unconsciously fill them with this very energy, which is the lever for activation. Simply put, a shinobi pours in his chakra, it activates energy, and that in turn activates the seal itself. Why am I telling this? During the war, it was impossible to constantly use the power of the Uzumaki. Therefore, the red-haired people came up with a special sealing scroll in which complex seals were placed. And so other shinobi could use S-level seals. But this method was very expensive and energy-consuming. In this regard, few such scrolls were made, and now they are not made at all. Returning to where they started, most likely, those scientists simply found such a scroll and experimented on me. There are still barriers. I would classify them as the third type, because they can be both handmade and printed. But in all these advantages of Fuin there is one drawback. With all my knowledge, I cannot use the highest grade seals until I become a supreme master. This is also inherent in the genes. We are obliged to go through the entire path of learning from student to great master. Fortunately, I can deal with this in a year. I decided to interrupt my monologue and take a little break. Itachi listened all this time silently and without interrupting. And it seemed like he wasn't even breathing. Is it really that interesting? Now he decided to take advantage of the pause to ask. Listen, Teo, all this is certainly interesting and exciting, but I just don't understand why you are so eager to master Fuin in the first place? Oh, that's right, I didn't explain. You see, as I already said, with all my knowledge and the help of Ku, it will now take me 5 years to restore my previous level of strength. Alas, this is also a consequence of those experiments. the chakra channels do not expand well. But in Fuan, there is one seal that allows you to expand them. This is one of the few medical seals. But she is S-class, so I need to become at least a master. I understand, but now I have another question. If you say that only Uzumaki can create seals, how then was Minato able to seal the fox inside you? This is a very precise, and at the same time funny question. But everything is simple here. As I was able to find out, one of Minato's ancestors was an Uzumaki, and part of our power flows in his veins. We talked a little more about seals, and then got down to training. And, flashback. Now I am one step away from the great master. I think I can already use the expansion seal. I quickly scanned all the barriers around the training ground to make sure there were no misfires. I installed restraining and blocking barriers around the perimeter so that chakra surges would not be noticeable from the outside. And there is a signal 100 m away so that there are no unexpected guests. Now you can start. Having printed the special ink that I made from my blood, I applied special symbols to my body and made a series of seals, activating them. The peculiarity of this ink is that it is completely absorbed into the body and mixed with the blood, making it impossible to see what kind of seal was placed, and, consequently, to destroy it. I invented them for medical seals, increasing their effectiveness. And now the seal has dissolved in my chakra, not in my blood, because I will be treating the chakra channels, immediately restoring and expanding them. After finishing the seal, I felt someone cross the barrier. Concentrating, she felt Shisui's chakra. We were still able to make friends with him. Breaking through his wall of snarkiness, I was able to see what Ikuin admires so much. He is kind, understanding, responsible, sticks to his own path, he does not believe any rumors, but makes up his own opinion. Now I understand why Itachi compared us, we really are similar. Having dispelled the clones, I pretended to practice my attacks. And just in time, Shisui landed nearby. Hello, Naru, he began to call me that when he accepted me as a friend. Hey Shisui, will you join us? Certainly. He took a stance and we sparred. He chased me around the training ground for 3 hours. We didn't even notice how there were 3 of us. Itachi joined us about an hour ago and deftly joined in our duel. We trained for another 2 hours, and then, exhausted, we collapsed under a tree. It's hard for even 2 ANBU to train for that long. I leaned against the trunk, Itachi settled down next to me and lay down on my shoulder, and Shisui, that impudent cat, that's his ANBU call sign, settled down on my lap. Luckily for him, I didn't have any strength left to throw him off, so I just lightly hit him on the head. And then, on the spur of the moment, she began to sing. Natsu Hiboshi, Naze Akai? Yub Kanashii Yum Wamita. Nate Hanashida. Akai Miyo. Natsu Hiboshi, Naze Mayo? Kita Warashi, Wasagashitaru. Dakra Kanashii Yumo Miru. Natsu Hiboshi, Naze Akai? Yub Kanashii Yum Wamita. Nate Hanashida. Akai Miyo. Natsu Hiboshi, Naze Mayo? While singing, I, without noticing, ran through Shisui's hair. He was very surprised, because I had never sung in front of him before. However, he quickly moved away and made himself more comfortable, enjoying the peculiar caress and beautiful voice. I don't want to admit it, but I feel good with this Uchiha, calm. Ku in the subconscious only grinned sarcastically at this. Saying something about feelings, without explaining his behavior. What a flea-infested rug. Classes at the academy begin today. Now we stand and listen to the Hokage's welcoming speech. Itachi said that in this world, training is a little different. If on that first day it was only distribution into classes and a short class hour, then here, there is no distribution as such. At first, everyone studies together, and then after about a year, they are divided into classes. And in each class, they try to make an equal number of excellent students and poor students. There is also a history lesson on the first day. I really don't understand why this is necessary. Anyway. Finally, Minato finished his speech and we headed to class. During the speech, I caught disdainful glances at myself. Everyone thought that the Hokage's daughter would not go to the academy at all. The children also kept up with their parents. They have already written me down as a loser and, apparently, they are not going to change their opinion. Well, it's okay, I don't really care about their opinion, and besides, I don't intend to stay in the academy for long. Already now my level is somewhere at the Chunin level. I learned several techniques of the elements of fire and wind, and began to develop the element of lightning, which I inherited from my father. I also recently started training Rasengan. I've also made good progress in taijutsu. I can already hold out for about 10 minutes against Itachi and Shisui when they fight seriously. Master level mastery of katana and tessin. Speaking of tessin. As everyone knows, when Kaa-chan gets angry, her hair splits and a frying pan appears in her hands. For me, everything is different. One day, a half Uchiha, i.e., showed up to train with Ikuin. Sasuke. This bastard pissed me off so much that I accidentally used Kurama's ki. The elastic bands on the hair could not stand it and broke, and the hair itself was divided into 9 parts. A huge red mass began to form in his hands. Sasuke simply fainted from such pressure. Itachi later corrected his memory. And when I calmed down, I was left in my hands with a smaller one with the Uzumaki sign. Kurama said that this is a chakra weapon, and I can call it at any time. Like it or not, I had to train. Also, in appearance, I began to look 13 years old, not 10, and my hair grew to my knees. Mom says that all Uzumaki girls grow up faster. And now, sitting in the office on the back desk, I looked out the window, half listening to the sensei. I know the whole program thanks to Nissan scrolls. And history is not much different from our world. Except that Madara didn't attack the village and was an elder all his life. And Rakuto had no sons, he passed on his strength to his students. That's how I sat all day, listening to whispers that I was a good-for-nothing daughter, a disgrace to the family, a loser, and all that stuff. When we were released, I immediately hurried home. I needed to talk to Kaa-chan. I'm home. Come in, honey, wash your hands and sit down at the table. I quickly washed my hands and went to help with the cooking. When everything was ready and we sat down at the table, I decided to start a conversation. Kaa-chan, I want to take the Genin exam in a week. Can you help me? Kushina looked at me in surprise and thought. I forgot to say, Kaa-chan recently found out that my chakra had awakened. Flashback. As usual, my mother and I were doing calligraphy. But instead of ordinary symbols, Kushina taught me to draw seals. It was strange, forcing a person without chakra to create a seal. Maybe she hoped that the power of the Uzumaki blood would take over and awaken my chakra hotspot. And in principle, she was right. I mean, I always had to hold back my power, and that day I was thinking about training with Kurama, and I accidentally imbued the seal with chakra. As a result, a small explosion occurred. I had to tell my mom that I had felt chakra in me for some time. I didn't say it because I wanted to make a surprise. By the way, it was a success, and Kaa-chan started working with me seriously. END flashback. Honey, are you sure? Quite, I'm already at the level of a strong genin. And I completed the entire program thanks to Ikuin, Shisui, and my brother's scrolls. And I'm not going to tolerate all this ridicule in my direction. Okay, I'll try to do something, but for now you have to go to the academy. Fine. So the week passed. I visited the academy, listened to ridicule in my direction, grimaced from the Sasuke Kuina fan club, and then ran to the training ground. The day before the exam, my mother said that my name was included in the list of graduates and tomorrow I would have to take the final exam. Yes, you should have seen it, the faces of both students and teachers when I came to take the test. And if the children were just angry that I, without attending classes, went through connections, because I looked their age. But the teachers didn't understand at all how the Hokage could sign permission to take the exam. And when I was able to pass all the disciplines with excellent marks, they were completely shocked. Well, of course, because I, a great shame for the family, refused to become a shinobi and had no chakra, and in the first year, without even really starting my training, I was able to pass the exam. In terms of genius, I was ranked above the 3 Uchiha Namake's geniuses. But at my mother's request, they didn't talk about it. I'm just a genin who completed his training. No one could argue with Bloody Habanero. So I became a member of Team 5. My partners were Inuzuka Taro and the clanless Takahiro Aki. But the mentor caused a shock. Obito became my mentor. Thus began my adventures as a genin. A year has passed since he became a genin. Overall, this year has been calm, boring and ordinary. Regular D-rank missions and a few C-rank missions. And, of course, the mission to capture Tora. This was our first mission. Since the guys didn't trust me yet and, to put it mildly, didn't like me, they didn't include me in the plan and decided to act on their own. Obito decided to see how we would work together, but he didn't like what he saw. The teammates didn't think much of it and decided to just pounce on the cat. The plan, of course, is SOSO, but to their credit I will say that they managed it quite quickly. Just 20 minutes of chase, and the cat was cornered in some alley. But that's where their happiness ended. Tora slashed them with his sharp claws in a matter of seconds. Even Obito got it, and for some reason he decided to help. I decided to take pity on the team and help. After all, I know what this cat needs. I just walked past the guys who gave me an angry look, and went up to the cat. He was about to attack me when I just squatted down and gently called him over. At first the cat was taken aback, and then began to slowly approach. When there was a meter left before me, he stopped and began to wait. I immediately understood what was happening, and took out a pre-prepared delicacy from the seal, luring the cat. Having smelled the delicious aroma, Tora came up to me without fear and began to eat, and then meekly jumped into my arms and began to purr. That's the whole secret, this cat loves affection. As a result, we have 3 wounded guys and intact me with a purring Tora in my arms, the complete shock of everyone in the residence, including my father, as well as a record for capture 30 minutes. The previous one was set, it seems, by Minato's team 1 hour. By the way, after this mission, the guys hated me even more. But, as they say, the good ones are those who have knocked the crap out of them. It's the same with us, until I beat them up during training, proving that it's not for nothing that I wear a genin protector, they didn't recognize me. But in all this routine there were several funny moments. Capturing Tora is one of them. The other was related to my beloved sensei. Oh yes, Obito alienated me on the first day, which, by the way, added another point to my team's hatred. When the sensei was announced to us, at first I was shocked, but then I realized that this was even better for me. Until one fact dawned on me. Obito doesn't know that I can use chakra. And while the other teams were leaving, I kept thinking about how I could technically get away with it, and I didn't notice that I had fallen asleep. I woke up to loud curses from Taro and Aki. Not immediately realizing what they were arguing about, I glanced at my watch. I slept for 5 hours. Now it's clear why the guys are outraged, and where Kakashi-sensei got such a habit from. He simply adopted it from Obito. The sensei himself, shining like the sun and not paying attention to anything, told us to go up to the roof and disappeared. The guys became even more angry from this behavior and flew out of the office like a bullet. I, already accustomed to this, calmly got up and went upstairs. When I arrived, Taro was trying to kill the sensei, and Aki successfully stopped him, from which I concluded that Inuzuka is very hot-tempered, and Takahiro is his personal sedative. Yeah, the team didn't get the best deal, but they didn't remake anything like that. As soon as they heard the door close, they immediately stopped fussing and threw a contemptuous look at me. But Obito ignored it. Now his gaze was completely riveted on me, his emotions were changing with great speed. First misrecognition, then misunderstanding, fear, panic, happiness, and bewilderment, and now I am squeezed in a bear hug. Naruto? What are you doing here? Are you looking for someone, or are you lost? Questions followed each other with incredible speed, not allowing me to answer until I covered his mouth with my hand. Obito, are you completely stupid or are you pretending? Have you even read the team composition? I am the third member of Team 5. But how? You can't use chakra, can you? My image in the eyes of my teammates fell even lower, although much more. I looked reproachfully at Obito and, pointing to the protector, said, "If I received it, then I can." Before I could finish, he grabbed me in his arms and spun me around, laughing happily. I couldn't help but laugh at this. Well, +1 point of hatred towards me. Sensei's love. Then there was nothing interesting, we introduced ourselves, and our quiet everyday life with D missions began. A month passed like this. Itachi and Shisui disappeared on missions, and we didn't see each other all this time. Until one day. We were returning from a mission when we were unlucky enough to stumble upon a patrol where Shisui was just there. No, of course I wasn't going to hide the truth from my friend, I just didn't know how to tell it. At first I didn't really trust her, but then I didn't have to say anything. And now he looks at me and cannot believe that it is me. And then he breaks into a nasty smile. Well, Naruto, what a meeting. I kept wondering why you don't come to training, but you end up on missions? Did not know. I just giggled nervously at this. Having said something to his guys, Shisui turned to Obito. Obito, are you done for today? If so, will I take Naruto? And after waiting for a slight bewildered nod, he disappeared into the Shunshin along with me. We arrived at our training ground, and from Shisui's eyes I realized that I was finished. In principle, everything was like that. He drove me around the training ground for 5 hours, testing my abilities. He didn't ask what I could do, but simply bombarded me with various techniques, seeing how I could avoid them. And I had to use absolutely everything to avoid all his attacks. By the end of the training, Shisui's shocked and angry state was replaced by joyful satisfaction. Afterwards, of course, I told him everything. True, I had to say that I awakened the chakra during meditation about 6 months ago, and I honestly admitted why I didn't say it. Shisui, of course, didn't like this, which is why I received a good slap on the wrist, but then he said that he understood me and was even happy, and just like Obito recently, he began to spin me around. Just like him I was happy. And yes, I finally sorted out my feelings. I fell in love with Shisui. Kurama made fun of my stupidity for a very long time, but he gave me his blessing, which I was incredibly happy about, but he also said that he would support me in difficult times. And all because I learned that Uzumaki is loved only once in a lifetime. That's why in that life I couldn't fall in love again. And now I understand that I won't be happy. Well, that's why he needs a girl 7 years younger. Therefore, when the time comes, I will let him go, although it will hurt, I will endure it. I will try to be happy, because my beloved will be happy and alive. In the meantime, I'll be happy that he's around. But he also said that he would support me in difficult times. And all because I learned that Uzumaki is loved only once in a lifetime. That's why in that life I couldn't fall in love again. And now I understand that I won't be happy. Well, that's why he needs a girl 7 years younger. Therefore, when the time comes, I will let him go, although it will hurt, I will endure it. I will try to be happy, because my beloved will be happy and alive. In the meantime, I'll be happy that he's around. But he also said that he would support me in difficult times. And all because I learned that Uzumaki is loved only once in a lifetime. That's why in that life I couldn't fall in love again. And now I understand that I won't be happy. Well, that's why he needs a girl 7 years younger. Therefore, when the time comes, I will let him go, although it will hurt, I will endure it. I will try to be happy, because my beloved will be happy and alive. In the meantime, I'll be happy that he's around. Because my beloved will be happy and alive. In the meantime, I'll be happy that he's around. Because my beloved will be happy and alive. In the meantime, I'll be happy that he's around. This is how my year passed. Today we have a day off, and tomorrow we have training, so in the evening the guys and I will get together and discuss strategy. Well, now I'm training as always. Over the past year, I have progressed to somewhere around the level of an average jounin. In Fuan, I reached the Grand Master, mastered the Raisin Shuriken, and even better honed my katana and Tessin skills. Now I'm trying to combine Rasengan with other elements, but so far it's not working out very well. After some more training, Kurama came running after me. He often runs away somewhere, but at the same time he does not forget to train me. It was he who taught me how to use a katana and a fan, taught me techniques using them, like Sasuke did with lightning. It was more difficult for me, if I could easily use the wind with a katana because of its nature, then with fire it was much more difficult. But even here Ku helped me. He explained that the elements are the same in nature. It was we, the little people, who gave them stereotypes. If wind can be made into a blade, then so can fire. He taught me to feel the wind, play with fire, dance with lightning, and give it different shapes. He also teaches me to use elements with only one seal, denoting this element, but so far nothing has worked. This is very difficult and very chakra intensive. After the first attempt, I spent half of my chakra. We also began to study the cover. To do this, Kurama must completely penetrate the seal, which is why I had to change the seal a little so that the physical body can pass through. But here, too, problems awaited us. I can only release 2 tails for now, and in this state I can last 5 minutes at most, with 1 tail more. But when I tried to release the 3rd tail, a sharp pain pierced my body, and I passed out for a short time. Therefore, for now we decided to stop at 2. A sharp pain pierced my body, and I passed out for a short time. Therefore, for now we decided to stop at 2. A sharp pain pierced my body, and I passed out for a short time. Therefore, for now we decided to stop at 2. Now we went home. Recently Akira sent a letter that he would be returning soon. Mom was so happy that she had already invited the Uchiha to dinner when he returned. Although this will only be in about a month. Arriving home, I immediately went to the shower to wash off all the dirt. Afterwards, I changed clothes and went down to the kitchen. I luckily missed lunch, so I was going to have something to eat and go to meet the guys. And after that we were going to have dinner somewhere together, taking Obito with us. Someone has to pay for us. Yes, we became good friends with Taro and Aki, and often mock the sensei like this, well, or during training. But I was unlucky. Minato was sitting in the kitchen. All desire to eat was gone, so I just drank some water and got ready to leave, telling Kushina that I would have dinner with friends. But then something happened that no one expected. I was already putting on my shoes when Minato decided to speak to me, or rather even order me. And where are you going for the night? You can solve all your problems tomorrow morning. Go to your room. I can't put this off until tomorrow. Tomorrow we have training, so today the team and I are going to discuss strategy, I answered calmly, not paying attention to the tone at all. Where could such a brat get a team from? I could have come up with a more plausible excuse. And for some reason it was this arrogant tone that touched me. I've been patient for a long time, but I'm not going to do it anymore. Oh, did the great Hokage-sama forget that he personally signed my becoming a genin and assigned me to the team? How dare you talk to your father like that? Minato got angry. I do not consider a father to be a man who did not care about his daughter when she most needed his support. I shouted. But before she could finish, she received a strong slap in the face. My head jerked from the strong blow, and blood began to flow from the corner of my mouth, but I was able to stay on my feet. Minato froze, looking at me dumbfounded, and Kushina was about to move to help me, when a loud roar shook the house. Kurama, unnoticed by anyone and sleeping on my neck, could not tolerate such an appeal to his Jinchuriki, to his other half, meaning the merging of souls, don't imagine anything. He landed in front of Minato, changing his size in a jump and becoming about his waist, and was about to pounce when he felt a strong hug on his neck. Thank you, Ku, you always protect me. But you shouldn't put any bullshit in your mouth, I say gently, and add more quietly, let's get out of here. And she just left the house without even closing the door. I walked without making out the road until at some point I felt moisture on my cheeks. After running my hand, I realized that these were tears. I cried without noticing it, and the weather matched me. It started to rain. Throwing my head back, I allowed the raindrops to wash away my tears, carrying them away. Kurama didn't say anything, he just climbed onto my shoulders, wrapping his tails around me and giving me his support. We stood like that for about 5 minutes until I finally calmed down. Looking around, we realized that we were standing in a clearing in the middle of the forest of death. This worked to our advantage. I have already accumulated enough chakra and now I can find out what is happening to my father. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's house. After Naruto left, Minato stood for some time, staring blankly at the open door until Kushina closed it. She looked at him very sadly and, at the same time, indignantly. Uzumaki was about to yell at her husband when he fell to his knees. No, he didn't cry, but there was so much pain in his eyes that Kushina changed her anger to mercy. Kushina, honey, what's happening to me? Why did I hit my beloved daughter? And why don't I remember at all that she became a genin? And how could she even pass the exam if her heart was sealed? Something is wrong here, but I don't know what. I'm afraid I'll hurt Naruto even more than I did today. Everything will be fine, Minato, I will definitely do everything to help you. I think you've got bookmarks on you to make you hate Naruto, but I can't find them. And this is very strange, only the great master could have placed such bookmarks, but they all died during the war. And I'm afraid too, but not for Naruto, but for you. She's strong and can handle it if anything happens, and besides, she has Ku, but lately you've been looking worse and worse. And this worries me. Kushina hugged Minato and they just sat there for a while until they heard singing. It was a very melodious voice, and it seemed very familiar to them, but they could not recognize it because of the song. The song itself was strange, beautiful, but the words were incomprehensible, as if they were sung in another language. Demonic. I quickly found a convenient tree and climbed up it. Taking ink out of the seal, she drew a special circle seal. And she put another seal on her forehead. This way I can understand not only what kind of seals are on Minato, if that's what they are, of course, but also where they are. Taking a comfortable position, I concentrated my chakra in my throat and began to sing. Kieru koto no nai masiji ian enite suzuku. Itsuma demo mu no nakade kitsukuru deho. Chikaida kazuna ha. Itsukara deho hanarebaner no ha. Demo kokoro wa makashi no mama yurugu koto wa nai deho. Shinjatita futatabi eru koto wa. Kono waker ga futari no sadain demo. Anada wa maki tsuzuketeru watashi ga iru. Kono sabit watoki hanat sutitai katoba. Kieru koto no nai masiji ian enite suzuku. Itsuma demo mu no nakade kitsukuru deho. Chikaida kazuna ha. Kyoku no sen wa nozori nagara qmo. Egetita anada no kage setsuna esse komiajaru. Nasakinai deho. Anada wa mamori tsuzukita watashi gairu. Sono sabit wa yuki chikai o katoba. Nari yama nai kono masiji ian enite suzuku. Itsuma demo mu no nakade kitsukuru deho. Suyoi kono kazuna ha. Anada ja nakya imiga nai watashi dakara. Kono sabit watoki hanat sutitai katoba. Kieru koto no nai masiji ian enite suzuku. Itsuma demo mu no nakade kitsukuru deho. Chikaida kazuna ha. While I was singing, waves of energy emanated from me, which spread throughout the village, finding everything, even the most hidden seals. These waves are very difficult to feel, almost impossible, and if they are detected, they will not be able to find me. Thanks to the energy of the forest of death, my chakra is simply lost and impossible to find. This is the best place to perform this ritual. And finally, having found Minato in the house, I began to scan his body. As I thought, a control seal was installed on Minato, and worst of all, right in the head. This is a very dangerous seal. It was used in ancient times to interrogate dangerous criminals and conspirators. It does not allow the person who placed it to lie, and at the same time, it can include a special task, for example, to kill a feudal lord. But this seal is not durable and had to be reinstalled. But this was also dangerous. After some time, the seal destroys the mind, and the person becomes a weak-willed puppet. Therefore, this seal was classified as forbidden and was no longer used. And judging by Minato's condition, this is not the first seal, and his mind will no longer be able to withstand another one. Is that bad? But there are also advantages. I know what the seal is on Namikaze, and this means that I can save my father. I spent the next few days training in the forest of death. Of course, I understood that my father did not want to beat me, and all his actions were dictated by the seal of control. But I was still offended, and I didn't want to see him. Of course, I sent my mom a message so that she wouldn't worry, but I didn't tell her where I was. This place is perfect for Ku and I's training, because the entire forest is saturated with natural energy, which blocks any perception from the outside. The first 2 days passed calmly. Ku still trained me in creating techniques, and I began to get a little better. True, as soon as I form a technique, my clones flutter from lack of chakra. But I'm not upset, because Kurama said that at this rate I can learn in a month. And also, in order to take my mind off sad thoughts, I decided to master complete fusion with Kurama. This merger does not provide any special advantages, just cute ears and tails appear. Well, all 5 senses are also improving, but this is not particularly important, since even without this, my 5 senses are improved. Thanks Kurama. When I'm in this mode, all thoughts seem to fade into the background, leaving room for absolute calm. It's like experiencing Zen. Itachi's POV. I've been on a mission for 2 weeks. Although the mission was quite simple, to catch a group of rank B Nukenin, it was very exhausting. Not only did our squad have to hunt down these reptiles in the forest for a whole week, but then, being pretty tired, we had to suffer to catch them all. So, upon returning to the village, I had to write a report on the mission. And now, I'm finally returning home, dreaming of only one thing, to go to bed as soon as possible. But even these modest dreams were not destined to come true. As soon as I crossed the gates of the Uchiha quarter, Obito pounced on me, as if he was waiting. He told me that he couldn't contact Naruto. 2 days ago, when they were supposed to be training, Naru never showed up. Of course, the Hokage later explained that she had overdone it during home training, and the 3 of them would have to complete missions without her. But when Obito came to visit her, he could not feel her chakra in the house, as well as throughout Konoha. And now he stands and tearfully asks for help in finding his beloved student. This behavior of my friend seemed strange to me, so, quickly forgetting about fatigue, I went in search. The matter was complicated by the fact that I was not a censor, and therefore I had to run around the entire village, trying to feel at least an echo of her chakra. But Naruto was neither in the village nor at our training ground. I was already beginning to suspect the worst when I suddenly felt something strange, as if a rope was stretched inside me and was calling me somewhere. I don't know what exactly made me succumb to this feeling, but in the end I reached the forest of death. And what was my surprise when I found Naruto calmly meditating in a clearing in the center of the forest, with ears and tails. What? And Naruto, what are you doing here? And what is this form anyway? The last question came out a little with hysterical notes. Opening her eyes, she looked at me a little in surprise, and then, with joyful cries, rushed to hug me. Ikuan, I'm so glad to see you. How long have you been back? I'm glad to see you too. I had just returned when Obito pounced on me asking for help in finding you. He was very upset, so let's admit what happened to you. We settled down under a large oak tree. I leaned on the trunk and Naruto lay on my lap. Listening to her story, I kept stroking her ears and tails. This was very calming, and I simply needed calmness, because as she spoke, I began to boil more and more. As it turns out, the fox fusion form has a calming effect not only on Naruto, but also on those around him. This is another plus of it, or maybe I'm just such a unique person that I have no one else to check it on. When Naru finished speaking, I asked, Teo, what are you going to do with Minato now? Nothing yet. The effect of the seal has almost worn off and my father is in no danger. And I need to prepare to use that technique. You will also need to choose the right time. I can't just come to the Hokage and openly remove the seal. But then they'll just lock me up somewhere with Ibiki and Yamanako. Understand? And also, I wanted to know, when I was looking for you, I felt like something was leading me to this place, as if indicating that you were here. What was it? It was a sensual connection. This is a very old and powerful technique, not even a technique at all, but a connection. But it is very difficult to form, almost impossible, and therefore, they forgot about it. This connection connects you with someone you care deeply about. It was previously used by lovers and family members, and then by best friends. It allows you to track your significant other, wherever she is, and also find out if something terrible happens to her. I formed this connection only once with Tsunade. So, one day, I was able to feel how she, foolishly and drunkenly getting involved in a battle, was poisoned and severely wounded. I then felt strong anxiety and, obeying this feeling, went on a search. I found her barely alive. After a long search, we found out that this technique is called a sensory connection, but there was nothing more about it, neither how nor why it is formed. She smiled happily, patting me on the head like I was little, and then settled back on her lap. We talked a little more about everything that had happened to us during these 2 weeks, and then we all fell asleep in the same position. End POV. I returned home on the 4th day. My parents didn't say anything, only my mother hugged me tightly, and my father looked sadly and went to his office. Just as he passed me, he lightly stroked my head. A week passed without incident, and then Akira returned. Mom threw a feast, even the Uchihas came. Everything was fine, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I often felt a negative gaze directed at me, and it came from Anika, as if it were another person. But no matter how many times I checked, everything was clean. It was our Akira, still just as kind and sympathetic. But it also happened that when my brother and I were talking, I felt this gaze, and it seemed to come from within. And this happened for a month. Until October 10th arrived. All this month, my team and I have been busy on missions, and just recently returned from AC rank mission. I was so exhausted that I completely forgot about my own birthday. Moreover, Obito didn't say anything, but simply sent us home, saying that he himself would report on the mission. So, I, suspecting nothing, went home. Already approaching the gate, I began to have a bad feeling. The house was suspiciously quiet. Having looked around, I didn't find anyone. Only a note in the kitchen went to Makoto, "I'll be back soon." And maybe I wouldn't have paid attention to her, but the feeling of anxiety was growing. I don't like this feeling. Therefore, without thinking twice, I called Ku and asked him to enter the seal, and then went to the Uchiha quarter. Approaching the gate, I became wary. There was no security at the post, and the alarm bells were growing. But as soon as I stepped through the gates, things got even worse. Because of the barrier, nothing was visible from the outside, but inside the entire street was covered in blood. I was filled with horror, wondering if the fate of the Uchihas of my world would be repeated in this one. No, I won't allow this. The thought struck that it was good that Kun and Shur were now on a mission. But this is not the time to rejoice. Having created a dozen clones, she sent 2 of them for doctors and the Hokage, and sent the rest to search for survivors and do everything possible so that they could hold out until help arrived. If necessary, I will use the power of the sage, although I still have little strength, and such a load will greatly affect me, but I simply must do my best. I myself went to the head's mansion to find my mother. I found the Uchiha couple in the living room. Fugaku was badly injured, his chest was cut, but he was still alive. Mikoto was nearby. She was not hurt as badly, but the wounds were also serious. Sasuke had mostly scratches and was simply unconscious. Having created another clone to begin treating the head's family, she went to the courtyard. That's where I found Kushina. Mom was all wounded, but I didn't notice any serious injuries. But the worst thing was that Akira towered over her, covered in blood. "Oh, little sister, you've finally come. Well, did you like my birthday present?" "Akira? Why did you do that?" "Well, how? I already said that this is my gift to you. And the best thing is that the Jinchuriki, who lost control of the fox, will be blamed for the massacre. How wonderful this is. Nothing will work out for you. An ANBU squad with the Hokage will arrive soon, and the doctors will arrive in time, and your whole plan will fail." "Ha, naive creature. Who do you think the father will believe, me, his beloved son, or the one whom he has long ceased to consider as a daughter? As for the doctors, when they arrive there will be no one left to save." And he immediately attacked. I had to use all my techniques, but the strength was still not equal. So I decided to use a cover. Akira clearly did not expect this. This became my advantage. I couldn't use Fuin on it. For some reason, all the seals simply disappeared. I couldn't use something like a Baijidama. I don't want to destroy the neighborhood, so I had to limit myself to elemental techniques. Using the vacuum cube, I was able to capture and immobilize Akira, but at the last moment he was able to free himself, and I can't figure out how. His technique is very similar to Kamui, but it is impossible. And while I was thinking about how I could catch Akira without killing him, Minato appeared. "Father." Naruto lost control of the Kyuubi and attacked the Uchiha clan. When I arrived everyone was already killed. She even attacked her mother. I tried to stop her, and then you came. Minato stood there, not understanding anything. The ANBU reported that a girl who looked like Naruto reported an attack on the Uchiha clan and simply disappeared, but Akira claims that it was Naruto who attacked. He himself sees that his daughter has really lost control and has already released 2 tails, which means Akira is right, and that means the ANBU was wrong. Noticing my father's confusion, I simply removed the cover, which made Minato even more confused. And that was enough for Akira. "Ha ha, Minato, you fool. Nuo. Kurama, release the 3rd tail." "But there's no time to think, hurry up." While fighting Akira, I tried to take him away from my mother. And now I see him raising his katana over Kushina's body. The father is confused, he won't have time to do anything. Therefore, all that remains is to use the 3rd tail and move, and I'll deal with the consequences later. Kurama reluctantly borrowed chakra, and I released the 3rd tail, moving like lightning towards Kaa-chan. I simply didn't have time to block the attack, so the katana pierced my stomach. Breaking further progress with one hand, I make lightning seals with the other, sending a rather weak lightning strike. There is no more strength left for more. Cursing, Akira pulled out his katana and jumped to the side, at the same moment blocking Minato's blow. Tusan was trying to find out something from Akira, probably the reasons for his action, but I didn't hear it, trying not to pass out from the sharp pain, pierced my body after drawing the katana and using the 3rd tail. Ku immediately began to stop the bleeding and heal the wound, blocking the pain, but this did not help much. Besides, I was worried about my mother. But I was also worried about Akira. I finally understood what was wrong, but I'm afraid my father might do something. Having created a clone so that he could begin to treat his mother, she moved to the fighters. And just in time, Minato was about to stab his son with a kunai. Of course, the wound would not be fatal, but a residue would remain. Dad, no. I shouted and blocked the blow. Naruto? Minato clearly couldn't understand what was driving me. But I no longer paid attention to him, switching to Akira. Minato beat the guy up pretty bad, and the battle with me didn't go unnoticed for him, so he couldn't stop my further actions. Very quickly, I found a few ligature in the air. I locked the two of us in a barrier. Now you can't escape. You've caused us a lot of pain, but I won't let you do that anymore, Zetsu. I see you have acquired a body. What? How did you guess? This is impossible. With my last attack, I was able to feel your chakra, I know it too well. Now leave my brother's body. Having made the seals, I enveloped Akira in lightning, paralyzing, but not causing much harm. Having made a series of complex seals, I said. Seal of the department, activation. Few ligatures stretched along the lightning, penetrating the guy's body. And at that same second, another one separated from his brother's body. This was the dark Zetsu we had known for a long time, only it was not a black slurry, but a completely corporeal subject. And the most unpleasant thing is that he was from my world. How did I understand this? According to his chakra, it is identical to that one, but the people of this world have a chakra that is at least slightly different. That's why I didn't recognize Itachi right away. So what now? You have revealed me, but you cannot defeat me. Your strength is not at that level. You may be right, but you no longer have the strength. Besides, you apparently forgot something, I'm not alone. And nothing else stops Minato from killing you, because you not only took over the body of his son, but also tried to kill his wife. Not to mention the attempted assassination of his best friend's clan. Well, today I will retreat, but know that you won the battle, but not the war. Let's see. Having used some technique, Zetsu simply disappeared into thin air, and I stopped feeling him. Having removed the barrier, I sank to the ground exhausted, the wound was making itself felt, everything was swimming before my eyes. Shocked, Minato rushed to check on his son's condition, not forgetting to watch me in disbelief. Namikaze was about to ask something, but a scream prevented him. Naruto. My clone shouted that he was treating Kushina. Forgetting about everything, I moved as quickly as possible to them. The clone immediately dissipated, sharing the information I needed. By the way, the rest of the clones also scattered, reporting that almost all the Uchiha survived, holding out until the doctors arrived. After analyzing the information, I realized what made the clone so alarmed. Kushina was pregnant, but because of these events, the fetus was dying, and the powers of the sage and kurama were needed to save it. And Uzumaki herself was not in the best condition. Please direct your chakra into your mother's body. But, Button, I haven't finished your treatment. If I interrupt now, you will bleed. I don't care if we don't do this, they could both die. Please. Kurama didn't respond to this, only I felt his chakra pass through my hands. Keeping up with my friend, I activated the sage mode. This was dangerous, because my chakra was already at 0, and my body was not yet prepared for this power. But now I couldn't care less. My body was enveloped in golden light, and Ka-chan's body, Kurama's chakra. The last thing I remember is paramedics running towards us. It was very difficult for me to come to my senses. Consciousness did not want to return to the body at all. The eyes seemed to be filled with lead, and the body seemed to be pierced by thousands of needles. Through the veil of fog I heard quiet voices. It was difficult to make out what they were talking about. Hokage-sama, I don't know what kind of technique Naruto used, but it's truly a miracle. She was not only able to keep the Uchihas alive, but also save them both. Both? Didn't you know, Minato-sama? Kushina-san is pregnant. From what I could make out, I realized that I was in the same room with my mother, and now the doctor was explaining the situation. They discussed something for some time, and then the doctor left, and I felt someone take me by the hand. The pain had already subsided a little, and I was able to open my eyes. Naruto, my dear daughter, How could I allow my family to fall apart? What should I do if for all my misdeeds, you hated me? Pa. Pa. I called very weakly. Honey, I'm so glad you're okay. You really scared me when you fell unconscious. I'm sorry. Forgive me if you can. I did so many bad things to you, and even dared to hit you. I know you may not believe me, but I never wanted to harm you, and all those events did not happen according to my will. Sorry. Dad, I know that you never wished me harm, and I'm not angry with you at all. I love you. Naruto, thank you. You need to recover, rest. After his words, he hugged me tightly, but I still managed to notice a couple of tears rolling down my cheek. This conversation exhausted me, and, following Tusan's advice, I fell asleep. I slept like that for 2 days, only waking up occasionally. Still, using the third tail, and then also the sage mode, was not my best idea. Also, Ku keeps lecturing me, calling me either a dumbass or an idiot. Mom still didn't regain consciousness, and Minato came a couple more times. On the third day, I was able to regain half my strength, and Kurama helped with my wounds. But everything can't be rosy, and now a seal has lit up on my hand. I installed this seal on Minato, just in case someone decides to reinstall the seal. Apparently this case has come. Ku, please stay with Mom. After meeting Zetsu, I suspect that he is behind all this. And he might try to kill Ka-chan. Okay, run. I jumped out the window right in my shirt. There was no time to change clothes, the ritual had begun, and I still needed to get to the residence. It's good that all important objects are located in the center of the village. Running along the rooftops, I thought about how best to get inside. Going into the open is not an option. I don't know who is behind this and how many there are. Although I have one idea who it could be. You can try surrounding the building with a barrier. This way, at least it will be possible to avoid reinforcements from them. I think this option is preferable, although a barrier of such magnitude will take away a quarter of my strength, and I already have little of it. Approaching the building, I scanned it for people. Strangely enough, there was no one in the residence except the Hokage and 6 other people. They were all in the office, which means these are most likely the intruders. As I expected, the main character is Danzo, which means the rest must be from the root. According to the reaction of Minato's seal, Shimura has already begun installing bookmarks, which means it's time for me to act too. Having installed the barrier, I quickly move into the office and, taking advantage of the effect of surprise, collect all the cornivex in one pile with the help of the wind, and enclose them in the barrier. With a well-aimed kick, I send Danzo to the other end of the office. Using a vacuum cube, I launch it into the barrier, depriving the Inushniks of air. That's it, guys, off, the easy part is over. Now I have to somehow cope with Shimura. Having created 5 clones, I left them to deal with Danzo, while I checked my father's condition. Everything is bad, the seal is installed, which means the bookmarks are activated, and he hates me again. But there is good news, the seal was not fixed, which means Minato's consciousness was not destroyed, and he can be reached. I'll play on this. Dad, can you hear me? Don't give in to Danzo. You are stronger than this, break the bookmarks in your subconscious. Get out. Such a non-entity like you dares not only to be in my office, but even to speak to me. Namikaze throws me aside. From hitting the wall, I feel like the unhealed wound on my stomach is opening again. I take my words back, everything is bad. Minato hears me, but his will is greatly suppressed, which means he won't be able to cope with the seal on his own. Well, you'll have to do everything yourself. But I have no luck here either. Apparently Danzo added another bookmark, and now my father began to attack me. Dodging his blows, I try to time it and put a paralyzing seal. I don't want to waste a lot of chakra on a fight with my father, and I don't want to harm him in any way. Meanwhile, the clones tried to stop Danzo. But even the 5 of them were not Shimura's rivals. But there was something strange in the behavior of the head of Root. Having scattered the clones, he was in no hurry to attack in response, and he did not disperse the clones. Rather, he simply repelled attacks. So one thought crept into my mind. Having folded the seals, I used the binding fuin, but it simply disappeared. As I thought, from the very beginning it was not Danzo who was in charge, but Zetsu. But after I defeated his main body, the part in Shimura's body weakened, and gradually he began to regain control. That's why he doesn't attack back, because Danzo himself doesn't want this. There was only one way out, to use the same seal as on Akira. And while one clone was putting together the lightning seal, the other was using the seal. Just like that time, after separation Danzo lost consciousness, and instead of his body there was a black substance, like in that world that I decided to burn with flames. To avoid saying so. Of course, I might regret it later, but right now I need to save my father. Having managed to paralyze Minato, I wearily kneel down next to him. Still, escaping from the fourth Hokage himself is not an easy task. But there is no time to rest, it's time to get started. I take out a bowl with a brush and a kunai from the seal, and make a small cut on myself and Minato. I collect our blood in a bowl and mix it. With this blood I apply seals to our hands and faces. Having folded a row of seals, she leaned her forehead against his. Author's POV. Once in her father's subconscious, Naruto saw her father fighting with something that resembled tentacles. So this is what live printing looks like. Creepy. Quickly throwing fuin across the floor, Uzumaki shields them from each other. Naruto? To say that Minato is surprised to see his daughter in his subconscious is an understatement. I'll explain everything later, Dad. Just don't try to help me, here you will only hinder me. And without allowing him to answer anything, he rushes forward. Song of Destruction. Najiki de Kesha Mebaru Nagai Nootowo. Sukuwaru Mono Wanai. Zetsuba Daikjie Suku Inara. Ushinaware de Hikari wa. Mao Terasane. Aa Terasane. Nani nani mo kamogie mabaroshi naraba sabit saru nomi 0 and ikiru sekai and o shinri yo nanamo kamogie unmei. Naraba sabit saru no tatsu torai tio no karana sekai himichibi kararute momorita inochi. A melodic voice echoed throughout the subconscious. Minato was surprised that his daughter had such a charming voice, but he was even more surprised by Naruto's actions. The tentacles of the seal did not want to surrender so easily to the mercy of the winner, they struck new blows more and more violently and more crushingly. But Naruto didn't seem to notice them. Taking out a kunai from her pouch, she danced, dodging all the attacks, moving towards the center of the seal. Sabit kita auto anaiwa. Dorimo shirana sekai no kodu anai. Michiba karit mata umaru inochi. The last words of the song are heard, the kunai is engulfed in a bright red glow, and Naruto pierces the seal. Destruction. After the seal disappears, Minato loses consciousness. He woke up on the floor of his office, lying on the lap of his very tired daughter. The first thing he did was, of course, to hug his daughter tightly, because he had wanted this for 3 years. What have you done? I just destroyed the seal. This answer alarmed Namikaze a little, because even Kushina could not do anything. And having examined the destroyed office, he frowned even more. The 5 root members and the village elder lying unconscious did not inspire confidence. Minato remembered that it was Danzo who installed the seal on him, which means he must be interrogated. But it was not for nothing that Shimura bore the title of head of the root. It was not so easy to defeat him, and even in the presence of his subordinates. Then how did his weak Naruto manage to do it? He looked seriously into her eyes and asked. Who are you, and how do you know all these techniques? Uzumaki looked at him sadly, not daring to answer anything, and then, apparently having decided something for herself, she said barely audibly. Not now, when we return home as a family, I will tell you everything. And she lost consciousness. End POV. The moment of revelation was postponed for a week. Firstly, my mother needed to recover from all her experiences. That day, the ward was nevertheless attacked, but Kurama had no difficulty in fighting back. Only Kushina, who woke up at the wrong time, experienced considerable shock when she found the Kyubi no Yoko himself in the chamber, albeit slightly reduced to the size of the chamber, scattering the members of the root. Secondly, Akira was also in no hurry to come to his senses, waking up only on the 6th day after all the events. Well, thirdly, I had to heal the wound on my stomach again and restore the completely depleted central nervous system. And also getting hit in the neck by Kurama. He was generally ready to send me to my forefathers for such a disregard for his care. And he didn't care that he would have gone with me anyway. But then day X came. The entire Namikaze Uzumaki family was sent home. After dinner, Tusan asked us all to gather in the living room. Kaa-chan and Aniki were worried about Minato's behavior, because no one told them what happened that day at the residence. Naruto, you remember our conversation. I hope you'll tell us everything? And I told you. Everything. Starting from who I am and where I come from and ending with how their own daughter died. When I finished, Kushina was crying, Minato looked at me in shock, simultaneously calming his wife, and Akira simply looked at me in disbelief. Well, that's the kind of reaction I was hoping for. I stood up quietly and left the house. And so I wander in the direction of Mount Hokage. This place has always helped me calm down. Don't you regret telling them the truth? No, Ku, I was planning to tell you anyway. It's better to let it happen now, while I can still leave more or less painlessly. You're a stupid child, you seem to have lived enough, but you still don't understand some feelings. You have those who won't let go. I know, and that makes it more painful. While talking with Kurama, I didn't notice how I arrived at the mountain. Sitting on the head of the fourth, she began to admire the village, not noticing how tears flowed from her eyes. Naru? Everything is fine? What are you doing here? A concerned voice came from behind. Turning around, through a veil of tears I saw Shisui. Quickly wiping away her tears so as not to embarrass herself even more in front of her beloved, she smiled tightly. Sure, everything is fine, I'm just admiring the village. I love watching the sunset here. Yes, I love him too. But lying is not good. I see that everything is not in order. Confess what happened? Everything is really fine, it's just. Unexpectedly for myself, I burst into tears. Still, I couldn't keep my mask of calm in front of Shisui. They won't forgive me. They won't be able to forgive what I did. I took her place and continued to live her life. It was I who should have died, not her. Naruto, calm down. I do not understand what you mean. Can you tell me first? And I lost it. I roared out loud, not noticing that I was telling Shisui the story of my life. Even after losing my voice, I continued to speak. Only when the hysteria stopped did I realize that I had blurted out everything to a stranger, albeit a loved one. Now, probably, you despise me too. I'm a guy who became a girl, and also fell in love with a guy, you should be disgusted. I'm deceiving everyone around me. I don't want to hang my feelings on you. Sorry and goodbye. I stood up and, without looking at Shisui, took off. I didn't want to see the expression of detachment and contempt on my beloved face. But they didn't let me go far. Shisui immediately grabbed my hand and turned me towards him, kissing it. My little silly girl, it doesn't matter to me whether you're a guy or a girl, from this world or not. I love you. Not your body, but your soul. And we, Uchihas, love once and forever. That's why I won't let you leave, I'll get you out of the ground. I couldn't believe my ears, my love was mutual. And he doesn't reject me after hearing it. I was happy. I love you too. And he kissed me again. We returned after midnight. Sure didn't want to let me go alone, and even offered to talk to my parents, but I refused. He has already given me the strength to withstand any of their decisions. When I came home, I found my family still there in the living room, and without letting them say a word, I started first. Thank you for everything you did for me. I didn't expect to feel what it's like when you have a real family. In order not to burden you, I will collect my things, and the strong embrace of 3 pairs of hands did not allow me to finish. Stupid child, no matter who you are still our child. In that world, you were deprived of parental love, but you were given a second chance. So let us fill this gap in your life. Looking into the eyes of my family, I did not see the expected disgust or contempt, there was only love and tears. Not expecting this, I burst into tears again. Thank you. Thank you, you are the best family there could be. A couple of days later, I was summoned to the Hokage. It was strange, Dad didn't tell me anything. When I arrived, I knocked a little hesitantly. Come in. Hearing my father's calm voice, I took a deep breath and entered. The office was full of people. Dad, Obito, Fugaku, the elders, and Danzo. As it turns out, Danzo here isn't really such an asshole. He was quite a good old man, caring about the good of the village. He, along with Hiruzen, trained my father. But due to the influence of Zetsu, he became like the devil from my world. After the trial, all charges against Shimura were dropped and he was reinstated. Although he tried with all his might to kick out. But who will let such a valuable personnel retire? Fugaku started first, bowing. Naruto, please accept my sincere gratitude. You not only saved my clan from death, but also pulled me out almost from the other world. All Uchiha are indebted to you. Please raise your head, Fugaku-san. I did what I had to do. And I don't consider you obligated. You and Mikoto-san are Ikuen's parents and my parents' best friends, you're like family to me. And that means your clan too. But I don't intend to lose my family. Thank you, Naruto. Fugaku came up to me and hugged me tightly, and I hugged him back. Minato interrupted us. Okay, now let's move on to the question of why I called you. Namake's Naruto, taking into account your services to the village, as well as the level of your skill, from this day on you are appointed Jonin of Konoha. We will conduct the written exam after the fact. And you are also joining the ANBU squad. Crow. Cat. 2 ANBU landed behind me. Of course, it was not difficult for me to recognize them. Listen, Hokage-sama. Naruto, and you too, from now on you are a special team of ANBU, under the control of me personally. From now on, Naruto, your nickname is Fox. That's it, end history guys.